This is 97.3 ESPN.
All right, we are live on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash here for 99 Bottles, Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township. What's going on, everybody? This is one of the most hectic shows of the year, but we'll try our best to keep ourselves focused as there'll be plenty of prizes to be given away. It's kind of like the early kickoff to Christmas. We just give out prizes all day long. The bottles are set up, the prizes are set up, and all we need is our 99 qualifiers, some of which are already in the house there, Josh. Many of the people are already starting to enter to get in for today's qualifications. For those of you who don't remember, this is how it all works. 99 Bottles goes like this. You have entered 99 of you throughout the last couple of weeks. We have your names. Now, in the order that you get here to Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township, my trusty team of friends over here will sign you in the order that you show up at 5:30 tonight. When we start to call out your name, that will be the order that you pick. So if you are the first, that guy's got a Mountaineer jersey on, he gets to go twice. How about that? Caught you. That's a good strategy by you, sir. That's a good strategy by you. So in the order that you show up, we will call your name out. You will be the person that picks. There are 99 bottles. On those bottles, there's a ticket on the bottom that will go with a pair of tickets. Every single person, all 99 qualifiers, will walk out with a pair of tickets today. That's how we do it. 99 bottles, 99 tickets, 99 winners. Now, I'm in the holiday spirit because of Thanksgiving. I have brought some of my trusty Sports Bash t-shirts over here that I will be giving out just randomly throughout the day to anybody, even if you did not qualify and you're just out there and you want to see how it all works, or you just want to hang out, have a little frothy beverage, you want to get something to eat, you stop out and we might just call out your name randomly. You can come in and say, hey, I want to get on the waiting list. There's a secondary list that we have, and then we're just going to start throwing t-shirts out to people. So we've got tickets galore. The best, I don't want to say the best. You might not be an Eagles fan. We do have a pair of Eagles club box seats for the Eagles-Washington football game. That's on December 19th at 1 o'clock. Somebody in 99 bottles is going to pull one of those bottles, and on the bottom of that bottle will be a pair of Eagles-Washington club box seats. Perfect seats, like 40-yard line, club level. I've actually never been in the seats before. I lied. They're very good. Very, very good. It's a great seat in the club level. Now, we've also got numerous pairs of Flyers tickets within the bottles there. We've got numerous pairs of Sixers tickets filtered in the bottles there. We've got concert tickets. We've got tickets to other great events all over South Jersey, Philadelphia, the whole area. So all you need to do is make sure that you were one of the 99 qualifiers. Now, if you're not one of the 99 qualifiers and you want to get put on that waiting list, you head on down. Ariel and Jen are here. They will take your name. They'll put you on that waiting list. And then maybe if one of those 99 people. Now, I do know this. We have had, we had people far and wide enter. We've got people from Delaware, North Jersey, Maryland, PA, all over South Jersey that have entered because they know 99 bottles is always a great time. So stop out. We want to thank all the people, first off, here at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in EHT, where they have done. If you have not been to the new Vagabond, it's opened right before the pandemic last year and then had to get shut down, obviously. But this place is tremendous. They did a tremendous job with this place as a place to come hang out, have dinner. They have the back deck. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, I'm just standing in one corner of the bar, and I see at least 15 televisions in my sight line. So you have plenty of places to watch all the games that are on. We've got a busy day today. Flyers tonight at 7, Sixers tonight at 10 on 97.3 ESPN. I got a busy show for you today as well. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, as always, on Wednesday. Jeff Nadeau's here. Bob Papa, the voice of the Giants. Fantasy football today with Sky Guasco. If you have a fantasy football question, Sky is here for the Wednesday show. He will answer your fantasy football questions. You can send them in. Couple of ways, of course, you can get in touch. You can download the free mobile app and hit the message me button through the app. You can text me at 609-403-0973. And, of course, if you're watching the show live, you can get me there as well on the live video stream. We've got football at 4, Fine 5, Ugly 5, Cup of Joe tonight with Joe Valerio, Jeff Kerr. There we go. That's how we have the day started. Josh, I want to start with this as we get ready for Eagles and Giants. The Giants yesterday, we talked about they fired Jason Garrett. Now today, Daniel Jones, he spoke and talked about how he was almost in tears, knowing that he had a hand in why Garrett had to get fired because the offense simply, we hear that all the time. You heard Nick Sirianni today. He spoke about the challenges of now having to face a new coordinator here. But to me, this game signifies where the Eagles are as an organization, okay? They won a couple of games on the road in Denver, right? They win the game against the Saints last week, a banged-up Saints team. Okay, you got that home win. Now you have to follow it up. I know you're going on the road. And to ask them to win another road game, the 5th road game of the season, by the way, if they win this road game, that would be their 5th road game. If they beat the Jets on the road, that would be their 6th road win. How many teams win 6 road games, right? So this, to me, shows, hey, are we just a team that is beating some bad football teams? Or, hey, is our new identity the team that beats the teams we're supposed to beat? And that would mean winning this game here. You're better than the Giants. You're in a much better spot than the Giants. And you have now a much better opportunity to make your season something than the Giants do, which tells me what? You cannot lose to the Giants. This is a game that you cannot lose. A couple of weeks ago, you would say, oh, we're both kind of in the same spot. No. The Eagles have now surpassed on the trajectory of where these two organizations started the year. They were both in a spot. The Eagles have jumped way past where the Giants are in their trajectory. And that's what this game, to me, means Sunday.
Mike, I made this statement a couple times this week. We're going to find out who Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon really is, right? This is their first time going through a playoff chase as D coordinator and offensive play caller. We're going to find out, can they handle the heat in the kitchen? Because, Mike, I'll ask you about this question. I mentioned this the other night. To me, the heat is not literal heat in the kitchen. When people say heat in the kitchen, it's, can you handle the stress? Can you handle the pressure? Can you handle getting everything done on time? And I'm really curious to know, Mike, didn't Jeffrey Lurie fire the Super Bowl head coach for Nick Sirianni? Didn't he say, this is the guy that I want? So doesn't this kind of end up being an indictment on the owner and the organization? What happens the next few weeks?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I mean, to me, this tells you that first off, okay, this conversation is going to come up. I saw Andrew Brandt tweet something today that's going to get a lot of people ruffled, right? Did you see the tweet from Andrew Brandt? He said Howie should be under consideration or should win the executive of the year for getting a pick for Flacco, not on top of the fact that he got a first-round pick from Miami. He got the other one for Carson Wentz and having this team where they are. People are not going to want to hear that. But forget how the roster has been built, right? Forget how the roster has been built. The thing that you mentioned about finding out who Sirianni is, give them some credit for identifying a young coach that nobody knew anything about and having the gall, right, and having the stones to hire this guy coming off of a 4-win team. It would be easy to say, we won 4 games. We are changing quarterbacks. We look like a team in complete disarray, right?
Right.
And now we're going to bring in a coach that no one's ever heard of before. Like, you got to have some stones to do that. It's one thing to say we won 4 games. This is unacceptable. Let me go get and you insert name here, Bill Cowher. I'm going to go to like some name that gets mentioned all the time.
Or if you hired a retread like Todd Bowles.
That's what I'm saying. Just a guy who has experience, that had some name that you can think about this. You win 4 games. You have to think of a way, how am I going to re-energize my fan base in a season that we won only 4 games? What am I supposed to sell to my constituents for this season? You can't just say, hey, we're the Philadelphia Eagles, come support us. Yeah, they're going to sell out, right? But at some point, the people are going to get restless out there.
Right.
So when I go into a season to get some sort of buzz and I don't have it through my roster, what do? I go out and say, hey, let me bring in a head coach that people are going to get excited about and make them believe that because that guy's our coach, we are going in the right direction. All right. We have hired, you mentioned Todd Bowles. I don't know that he fits the mold. I say Bill Cowher jokingly just because he's the name. I don't think that would be realistic. But I'm trying to think of a guy that would have been available that would have fit the mold.
Well, for example, remember one of the rumors is that back in January that the Eagles would love to have Lincoln Riley.
Okay, that would have been your Chip Kelly hire.
That would have been your sexy hire.
That would have been the Chip Kelly hire, that you hired the guy that you don't know anything about, but he's the hot college coach guy, and he's got everybody really excited because we got that guy. We got the new innovative coach. Yes, that would have been a coach that would have excited people. That would have been a coach that would have got people kind of, interested in the year. You get a guy, you can come closer and take the picture. That's okay. I can keep talking while you're doing it. Will you take their picture while
Mike Gill is very good at multitasking.
I'm a multitask man, all right? So if you hired the guy that people would have been excited by, you get I'll come stand over here. If you hired a guy that people would get excited by, like Lincoln Riley, you got us? All right, good. No problem. If you would have hired the guy like Lincoln Riley, right, that would have energized the fan base.
Right.
If you would have got a guy like a veteran coach that had some name, a retread, people would have said
Anthony Lynn.
I don't know that has enough cachet. I'm trying. Cowher's name, but that's just not realistic. Like when John Gruden's name constantly kept getting mentioned, right? Like if you would have had a guy like that who had been a coach who had success, Tony Dungy. Hey, Tony Dungy, we threw so much money at Tony Dungy, he had to come back and coach, right?
Right.
Something like that. The Eagles went and got a guy that nobody heard of. He wasn't the flashy coordinator. He wasn't the hot name.
He didn't work for Sean McVay.
He didn't work with Sean McVay. That's good. He didn't come from an offense that was even all that highly regarded, right?
Right. He came from Frank Reich's offense.
Right. The Indianapolis Colts were just kind of like you know who else they could have hired that maybe would have fit this mold would be Bieniemy. Everybody wanted Eric Bieniemy.
Oh, yeah, another Andy Reid guy.
Right, but he was the name that everyone's like, how do you not hire Eric Bieniemy? How's he not getting an interview? How's he not getting a job? I think if they would have hired Bieniemy just because he had a name, he's coming from Kansas City, he worked for Andy Reid, that would have done something. But they went and got a guy that no one ever heard of before. And by the way, never called plays. He came from an offense that wasn't all that flashy, and he came from an offense that he didn't even call the plays in.
Right.
You hired this guy off of a 4-win season. I mean, if they're successful and this guy's a good coach, this would be Jeff Lurie hired Ray Rhodes, who I think, if memory serves, won a Coach of the Year award while he was with Philadelphia.
That is correct. He also won 10 games his first year.
Correct. Now, it didn't work out in the end. He ended up getting fired. Okay. He took him to the playoffs. He won 10 games. He wins Coach of the Year. 2, he fires Andy Reid. They bring in, Ray Rhodes. They bring in Andy Reid. Andy Reid, no one had ever heard of before. He wasn't even a coordinator. He was a position coach.
He was quarterback coach.
Right. They hire this guy. He turns out to be one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL. Right? And I don't want Tom from Summers Point to hear me say that because he's standing over there, probably wants to debate me on that. But Andy Reid, like it or not, is one of the greatest coaches in the history of the NFL. Jeff Lurie hired that guy. He then gets rid of Andy Reid. They start a new thing. They bring in Chip Kelly. They make a mistake with Chip Kelly. They identify the mistake. They get rid of Kelly. They go after Peterson, a guy that nobody had on their radar. He wins a Super Bowl. And now they get rid of Peterson, and they bring in a guy that no one's ever heard of, and here they are. Now, goes back to the start of this conversation of we're about to find out who this team is and who this coaching staff is. Because a well-coached team that is finding its way and finding its identity doesn't lose this game. And if they lose this game, that doesn't mean you don't have a good coach. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think it's harder to take this team. I don't want to say serious. What did you say? You wrote an article for 97.3ESPN.com today that somebody on the NFL Network said something, and this is where this is how the NFL is so odd. You had a team that had no expectations. You had a team that was kind of I'm talking about this team making the playoffs. People are sending me Jim Mora gifts, and I'm just like, dude, are you not watching the league? Do you watch any football? Do you see the league and where it is right now? And then you get this comment this morning on NFL Network.
Right. So the question is they were doing a segment, which was, which team in the playoff race do you not want to play right now? And Peter Schrager's answer was the Eagles.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, you now become the team, and we typically will hear this late in the year, right? You'll hear late in the year, oh, that's the team you want to avoid, right? And that was the Eagles a couple of years ago when they had the team with Carson Wentz, and they all of a sudden started to play good football. Remember? It was the
2019?
Was it the team that after the year they won the Super Bowl?
Well, the year after the Super Bowl was when Wentz got injured and Nick Foles had to come, do his magic again.
Right. So was it that team that won like 4 straight games? No, that was the next year.
No, the 2019 team when they had Deontay Burnett playing wide receiver and Josh Perkins.
Right. So it's amazing. That team was like, oh, man, all of a sudden the Eagles have won 4 in a row. I don't think that's the team that you want to face come playoff time. Right. And then they end up beating the Bears in the first round. If you remember, they won a playoff game that year.
2018, they beat the Bears in the first round. 2019, Wentz got injured. And
no. Okay, so right. The year that people said they won 4 in a row, they lost to the Seahawks in the first round. Right. Wentz got hurt. You're right. The year before was the year that Foles ended up getting hot and getting them into the playoffs, and then they beat the Bears. Yes, correct. But it's funny how these different variations have turned into these teams that people are like, you don't want to play that team now. They're the team you don't want to play. I would be more inclined to agree with what he said if they can win this game on Sunday. I think this game on Sunday is the show me who you are type of game. The other one shows me you have found your identity. You have come to terms with your identity, and you have enough talent to now win a football game with your identity. The next step is winning a game that you are supposed to win. And then I could say, you're the team I don't want to have to face in the playoffs because you are now taking care of teams regardless of where the game is played, who you're playing against. Look, what's the record of teams on the road this year? I think the road teams have an over 500 record.
They do. Yeah. They were mentioning on the NFL Network the other day about how this is one of the first year in like 10 years that teams on the road have an over 500 record on the road.
Yeah. So playing at the Giants, this shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I'm not saying that the game's going to be a walkover. It's easy. You're better than the Giants are. You're further along than the Giants are. You're better coached than the Giants are. You're a better run organization than the Giants are right now. Think about that statement. You're a better organization than the New York Giants are from top to bottom, right? Is there any argument there?
No. And also, you should win these games. These are the games you're supposed to win, right? You're supposed to beat the Lions. You're supposed to beat the Giants and the Jets.
Right. A couple of years ago, they lost to the Dolphins, right?
Yep.
And I remember being the one guy that said, I don't care that you lost to the Dolphins. Like, it happens. And then they went and won 4 straight games after that. There are many people who, when they lost to the Dolphins, that's it, season's over. There's a difference between saying, you lost to the Dolphins, so I can't take you as a Super Bowl contender. And I think that's a fair comment to make. You can't lose to the Dolphins and think, hey, this team's got Super Bowl aspirations. You know what I mean?
Right. There are certain teams that like, for example, the fact that the Titans, we talked about this yesterday, you and I, about how the fact the Titans have lost to the Jets and the Texans. It's a bad look, man.
Yeah, that is where I have a problem taking the Tennessee Titans seriously at this point. Like, I like the Titans. I like the way their identity is. I love the fact that they know who their identity is. They're okay with it. They don't mind it. I just don't think they have the personnel right now. All right, we got a busy show. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. I'm at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township. Now, you missed that if you missed that little segment. I just took a live picture on the air with a couple of nice listeners over there. So I'm sorry if that didn't go over the air very well, but I was just trying to be nice, Josh. To see, it's Thanksgiving. Busy show. Coming up in 20 minutes. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. We'll talk a little bit about Thanksgiving football. I wrote an article today over at 973ESPN.com regarding the high school football games that are really not around anymore. There are some, but not many. I'll discuss it with him at 4:40 today. Also, Jeff Nadeau will get his thoughts on the betting games. A lot of college football coming up. We got you covered. Sixers and Flyers tonight on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, you can listen to the Flyers on the free mobile app. Friday, we got the Flyers, 3:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. You're going to want to get the free mobile app for that as well. All right, just kicking things off, Vagabond Kitchen Tap House, 99 bottles. We've already got people who have got here, Josh. I mean, people have already entered their names. They put them in already. We're at 20 minutes in. We probably got at least 10 people that have already entered of the 99. So if you get here now, you're already picking around 11th, right?
I like that.
Yeah, nice to see some people out here. It's Wednesday. It's a nice day. It's a little nippy outside, but that's okay. I'm looking at a nice little Vagabond special menu. Coconut margarita. Ooh, that sounds good. A little smoked pineapple. Man.
Smoked pineapple sounds interesting to me.
That's the way to get my day started. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Live at Vagabond Kitchen Tap House EHT. Mike Gill with you. Josh Jennings producing the show. He's back at the studios. Now, Josh, I heard a little bit of your conversation last night with Kevin Durso, all right, during the my drive home. And Durso was very passionate about the whole situation that I had discussed yesterday on my show, which was basically the Flyers falling apart, right?
Right, the organizational issues and such.
Now, I was driving home last night from Atlantic City. I had to stop at the studio, and I had to get out of my car to bring stuff into the studio, so I missed some of the stuff that he was saying. But I heard him kind of getting very passionate about what has happened. And then last night, I tuned into the game. They're down 1-0 within like the first, 4 minutes of the game. They're down 1-0 early. I changed the channel. You know what I was watching last night? The Muggsy Bogues documentary on the NBA TV. See that?
That I have not seen it, but that's a very random thing to be watching on a Tuesday night.
It's all about like Muggsy Bogues, but it's more about how the Charlotte Hornets, like when they became a franchise and an organization, you know, like the start and how excited everybody was. And then they got Grandmama, Larry Johnson, and Alonzo Mourning, and like how like they were going to be the next team that was going to be around for like a long time.
Right.
And then Mourning kind of had it out with the front office, and then he got traded. And then obviously Larry Johnson left. So it was a very interesting documentary. The documentary ends at like 9:00. I flip back to the Flyers game, and now they're down 4-0. And I said, all right, well, I'm out on this. So, I mean, what I heard last night, though, okay?
Yeah.
When you get to the point where Jim Jackson is calling you out during the game for lack of effort. Did you hear that?
Well,
I don't know if you were watching
call.
The game last night. Okay. Jim Jackson on TV last night was literally saying, like, Tampa Bay is having target practice on Carter Hart last night.
Right. Coatsy was saying something similar last night.
All right. Third period. I mean, they're just blasting away at Carter Hart. The poor guy's like hanging out to dry. And Jim Jackson legitimately said, all right, at some point, like, you got to have some pride here. You got to have, like, it was pretty evident in the broadcaster's voice that now, I don't know that there's a time this year where I've questioned the team's effort, right? That's like a whole nother thing that came into play last night.
Well, Mike, that's why I asked Durso last night, and I'll ask you in the audience the same question. Is this an issue with the roster that we spoke so highly of before the season, or is this a coaching problem? Because Durso said last night that the coaches told Chuck Fletcher, these are the players we want. So now Chuck Fletcher gave him those guys. Now, we understand no Ryan Ellis, no Kevin Hayes. That's a problem. But still, you got Ristolainen. You got Cam Atkinson. You got these guys.
Yeah, but let's be honest. They moved the furniture around, right? They reshuffled the deck on the Titanic. I mean, it's just like the worst team in the league. And I think Pete said yesterday, they're actually in the playoffs right now. I can't confirm or deny that. I didn't look at the playoff standings. That's neither here nor there. But what they are, it's just a mediocre mess. I mean, they're the same team with just different people. They switched out Voracek. They brought in Atkinson. Okay, he's a little different. They decided.
To me, see, I disagree with that. I think Cam Atkinson was a serious upgrade because Voracek was turning into a guy who just didn't assert himself at all.
I don't disagree with that. I'm saying you brought in Cam Atkinson, who's a different player from Voracek, but he's still not the player that this team lacked. It's this is like the team that had Giroux, Voracek, Couturier, Wayne Simmons, like they had a bunch of guys who were all the same. They just added another player who's the same of what you have. He might be not better than Couturier. He might not be better than Giroux, but he's kind of like right in the next level. So you didn't get anybody who was what you need. Somebody better than what you already had. That's what you're lacking. You changed some of the players on defense. Okay, we're better there. Unfortunately, Ryan Ellis gets hurt. That's a problem. But they're nothing different than just a mediocre group. I mean, I don't know if that's the coach's fault. They're horrible in the power play. He's been a bad power play coach. In New York, he was bad. Vancouver, right. He was bad. They're not a good power play team. I don't want to say – what did Durso say about Hartnell's comments?
Well, he felt that, Scott Hartnell, his comment that they're soft was too far. He agreed with me on that. But Durso went on to say that part of the problem right now is that, the Flyers are, see, Durso feels the Flyers are much better than they were last year. He feels that last year was unacceptable and this year is better. But Durso's point is that he feels like not having Ellis and Hayes out there is right now being exposed more than the Flyers want to admit. Like, the organization doesn't want to admit or accept the fact that without Hayes, who is very important in many elements of the game, and without Ellis, who was supposed to be the number one D-man on this team, that it's really hurting them. And Durso feels like the Flyers are kind of in denial.
I don't doubt that he's right about that. The fact that losing Ellis is really dropped. I mean, you got Seether out there playing minutes. Like, every time I flip on the game, by the way, who the hell's Lightning McQueen out there last night? Right? I mean, you got McQueen is the only guy who gets a shot on goal last night. I watched him shoot the puck twice last night, and I said, who the hell's Lightning McQueen out here?
He's just chucking away.
He was the only guy giving any effort last night. That effort last night was dreadful.
Well, but Mike, that gets back to the other problem. That's why I keep asking, like, is this a coaching problem? And I feel like I know that coaching in hockey, we always fire the coach all the time. But to me, when Durso...
And by the way, of all sports, the NHL fires guys like every 2 weeks.
Right. They change them like dirty underwear, in and out. But Durso said to me last night, and to me, this was eye-opening. And you know what? Scott Laughlin said the same thing to me from Sirius XM a month ago, Mike. And let me ask you this question. If Vigneault and the coaches wanted this roster, and the roster is not playing well enough, isn't that an indictment on the coach?
Well, we never quite really know. Did they want the roster? Were they given this roster? You can only do so much. Like, when you're stuck in the middle, you can only do so much. Like, Chuck Fletcher can make a couple changes, but it's not that you can't trade Voracek and hope to get Ovechkin in return. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I get it. Like, they can't get that player that I'm saying they're still lacking because they got to get that player through the draft or sign him in free agency. So they didn't have that opportunity in the offseason when you're trying to make a trade. It's just hard to do that. So I don't know what limitations that Fletcher had. I don't know that Alain Vigneault says, hey, go out and get me Cam Atkinson. That's going to change the complexion of my team. You know?
But that's the other thing. I just feel like I keep hearing again and again people saying, whether it's Durso, whether it's Scott Laughlin, whether it's people on the NHL network, that, the coaching staff got the players they wanted, and I'm wondering, like, if they got the players they wanted and it's not working out, that's a problem to me.
All right, Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan now open Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Online, mattblattnissan.com. It is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which is our annual 99 Bottles party. It's kind of the kickoff to the holiday season. We just give tickets away to 99 people. 99 people are going to walk out with a pair of tickets today. Sports Bash tomorrow. We have a NFL football triple header. Not a lot of high school football tomorrow. Why is that? And should there be? We'll talk to Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. We'll get into that. And at this point, should you expect the Eagles to beat the Giants? In other words, do they have to win this game to be taken seriously? You can't lose to the freaking Giants, right? We'll talk to McGarry coming up next from the Press of Atlantic City right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
1 minute, Mike. Thirty seconds.
All right, welcome back live here at Vagabond Kitchen Tap EHT. It's on Ocean Heights. Stop out. You can get on the waiting list if you did not register for 99 bottles. If you want to be a part of 99 bottles this year, if you register for 99 bottles, I should say, you must be present to win. I think we're already up to over 20 people who have registered and are already here. So if you want to get on that list to pick your bottle, you better hurry. We'll pick those bottles a little later, but you go in the order that you get here. So I think we're already 20 deep on that avenue. All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He's brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and business online at calvielectric.com. There he is. Mike, what's going on, man?
Hey, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving Eve to everybody out there.
Absolutely. So I want to start with the Eagles and Giants and kind of, at this stage where these two teams are, would you say that it would be at the point that it's now disappointing if the Eagles do not win this game this week?
Where they currently are, yes, it would be a disappointment if the Eagles did not beat the Giants this week. The Eagles are catching the Giants coming off maybe one of their worst performances in several seasons. They're catching the Giants where they have fired the offensive coordinator in a short week. They're replacing that offensive coordinator with a guy who coached the Cleveland Browns and it was a disaster as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So the Eagles, with all the momentum in the world, are 3.5-point favorites. If they go up to MetLife and lose to the Giants this Sunday, it would be a disappointment for the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe.
I agree. Now, obviously in this area, Mike, Howie Roseman gets a lot of hate for some of the misses. But when you look at where the Eagles are, where they were, where they got to in terms of the low point and where they are now, and where the Giants have been and still can't get out of, wouldn't we suggest that Roseman is running laps around Gettleman?
Well, I mean, right now, no, Gettleman is impossible to defend. I mean, his draft picks have proven to be, just plain bad. He's made seemingly bad decisions. And, here, the New York Giants, since they beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl, since Eli Manning threw the pass to Mario Manningham on the sidelines, one of the greatest passes in Super Bowl history to clinch that victory, the Giants are 49-89. They are 40 games below 500. So it is impossible to defend Gettleman with anything other than saying that he might be the worst GM in the National Football League, and he is not going to be the Giants GM for much longer.
What about the coaching situation out there? We talked about earlier, the Eagles are coming off of a 4-win year. And to bring in a coach who no one has ever heard of. Now, the Giants tried to do the same thing. They tried to bring in a guy that no one's ever heard of. But where would his standing be right now? I mean, they're in a spot that you just mentioned. They're 49-89, and they brought in a guy that no one ever heard of. The Eagles at least had some success and have success hiring coaches to say, hey, we're going to take a shot with this young guy. Where is the coach now in the problems with that team?
Well, he is, I think by firing Garrett, he is making a move to sort of save his own hide. The conventional wisdom out of New York is that the Giants will get rid of Gettleman at the end of the season. They will not, however, get rid of Judge. They will give Judge another season because they kind of believe in him and believe that he's the right guy. So they're going to give him another season with a new GM. That to me sounds like a little bit of a recipe for disaster. You're bringing in a new GM who doesn't have his head coach, but is the conventional wisdom out of New York right now.
Was the Gettleman hire was it well regarded when he was hired?
Well, there were questions about it, right? Because he had been at Carolina, and though he had built Carolina into a team that went to the Super Bowl, there were also questions about his draft picks and kind of way his tenure in Carolina ended. And I will say this, it seems like day one, he's just made nothing but sort of controversial moves. Even taking Saquon Barkley with the number 2 pick, there are people say you should never take a running back with the number 2 pick. And right now, those people look correct because Barkley has been a huge disappointment. There are people who said, Daniel Jones is not a number 6 pick or where he went in 6 or 7. Most people thought he would be a late first rounder or something like that. So he has bucked conventional wisdom with his picks, and none of them have worked out. I mean, he's drafted a ton of offensive linemen. The Giants' offensive line is still one of the worst in football. It's hard almost to judge Daniel Jones because the offensive line is so bad, he barely has a chance.
Yeah, Will Hernandez was a guy I think a lot of people liked. He's the worst rated offensive guard in all of football. Thomas was the 4th pick in the draft. He has kind of struggled. You're right. I joked yesterday that the Giants need to hire Roseman to fix their offensive line because that's one thing Roseman seems to do a good job with.
Yeah, they need to do something. I mean, you said Thomas was a guy who, again, like Jones, like Barkley, was kind of overdrafted. People didn't think he would go with the number 4 pick in the draft. He goes to number 4 pick. He's been a huge disappointment. So, and let me tell you something. I kind of live up this way. I have friends in the New York area. People are frustrated. Monday night was the breaking point. The interception to the nose tackle or whatever that was. People have done it. They've washed their hands. They're furious with what has happened to the Giants. It's almost like they sold their soul to beat the Patriots twice. And since 40 games under 500, Mike, 49 and 89. That's
crazy.
Almost unfathomable if you think about it.
This was an organization that was typically, I hate to use the word gold standard, but they were thought to be one of the model franchises in the NFL.
Right.
And for 5 years right now, they are not they have been the worst NFL franchise.
I'm old enough to remember, growing up football. I grew up in Staten Island watching football in the 1970s. Both the Giants and Jets were horrible. You get 2 games, 1 o'clock the Giants would play, they'd lose. 4 o'clock the Jets would play, they'd lose. There was no Sunday night football. There was no Thursday night football. You just watched lousy Giants and Jets teams play every Sunday. But you're right. Since Parcells, or really Ray Perkins and into Parcells, since about the early 80s to 2012, you're talking about a team that went to 5 Super Bowls and won 4 of them. Okay? So you were right. You got a team that used to be, like you said, a gold standard, one of the franchises in all of professional sports. And now they're 40 games below 500 with 4 coaches. I mean, it's depressing, quite frankly.
It warms my heart, Mike. It warms my heart. Now, you said you're old enough to remember. I think we're all old enough to remember when high school football Thanksgiving Day games were the thing. They meant something. That was the whole kit and caboodle. That has obviously changed. Now, I wrote an article today. You commented. We've been going back and forth. And it's not that I have a strong feeling. I just kind of wrote that maybe if they reshuffled the deck, change the match. A lot of people don't even know why the matchups were even created.
Right.
There's new matchups that have more importance. But what happened to the games? Why have the schools decided we're not even going to play them anymore? There's some that are playing tonight. Some have decided we're not going to do it at all. What happened?
Time really passed them by. When these matchups really began and they were at their peak, it was before the high school football playoffs even started. The high school football playoffs started in 1974. So everybody loves to tell me about how Atlantic City and Holy Spirit would play in Boardwalk Hall before 10,000 people. That was the late 60s, 70s. There were no playoffs. Back then, the high school football season would start about the middle of September. Now the high school football season starts 2 to 3 weeks before the NFL season starts. All right, it's become a playoff-oriented sport, and when teams lose in the playoffs. They just want their season to end. And it's only going to get worse, Mike. It's not getting better because next year we're going to play the public school champions and state champions in public school football for the first time ever in New Jersey history. And those games are going to overshadow the Thanksgiving games even more. Teams are just, the way the schedule is, it just doesn't fit. You have like Atlantic City and Pleasantville that didn't make the playoffs. Then they can play a consolation game, but then they got to sit around for 2.5, 3 weeks waiting for Thanksgiving. It's just not practical anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the AC Spirit game. To me, that game kind of lost some of its luster, and I give everybody credit over there for trying to make it like it's still the thing. When the choice schools came in, nobody on the island goes to AC, and it's just a sad fact. They're just not going there. So the thing that made that game what it was half the kids went to AC, the other half went to Spirit. They then played each other. That doesn't happen anymore. AC doesn't have one kid on that team that's from maybe they do. I haven't seen their roster. But I called the game 3 years ago. Holy Spirit had 25 kids that lived in either Ventnor, Margate, or Brigantine. Imagine if half of them went to AC, how AC's team would be different. So that game to me, that's why I wrote the article saying maybe if you change some of the matchups up, that it would help reinvigorate some of this.
I still think the rivalries are there. You know, AC Holy Spirit is a big rivalry in boys basketball, like that. But certain other rivalries have evolved during the season. Holy Spirit St. Joe, Holy Spirit St. Augustine. My theory is take these games, and Mainland and Egg Harbor Township did it last year, flip them to the opening day of the season. Use them
How did that get? I didn't. Was it well attended? Was there any buzz?
As well attended as a very good crowd, I thought, and I think there's an enthusiasm when the season starts. I think it's much fairer to both teams to have it. Imagine if you're AC and you say, "Hey, we can train all off season. Hey, our first game is against Holy Spirit." Use it as a celebration of the beginning of the school year, basically.
Well, one of the arguments that I've heard and was, starting games so early around here is they're working. I wasn't even in town during the Battle by the Beach this year. I was at the beach myself. I went on vacation before the football season started. So I know a lot of people have been resistant to start so early. So you're putting your most high-profile game of the year in the first week when people, oh my God, there's a high school football game tonight.
Yeah, but the crowds, a lot of people that are into it, the crowds are good, and that's just the way. It's not going back. The schedule has shifted to that, and it's not going back. And it's sort of in every other sport, the NJSA is shortening seasons, trying to give kids a break between seasons. And here we are extending the football season to keep these rivalries alive. And the interest to me, now I go cover the games, you cover the games. Everybody likes to think the crowds tomorrow are going to be overflowing and stuff. They're just not. They're just not anymore. As I wrote like 2 years ago, the romanticism of these games just does not match the reality of them, basically.
So there's two tonight. Well, really one. St. Joe and Winslow, I guess, decided they're going to play a game.
Right, exactly.
There's no rivalry there.
Right.
And then there's three still hanging on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, Atlantic City, Holy Spirit, Ocean City, Pleasantville, and the big one, Millville, Vineland. They're going to play for the 150th time. They first met in 1894. That's a game that's traditionally been played on Thanksgiving. Atlantic City Holy Spirit is Atlantic County's oldest rivalry. That game was first played in 1926. That's the other thing. A lot of these games, there are very few games with the tradition of Atlantic City, Holy Spirit, Millville, Vineland. A lot of these games are just, hey, teams getting together. Everybody's playing on Thanksgiving. I want to play on Thanksgiving. I don't think the world is any poorer because Mainland and EHT play the first weekend of the season as opposed to Thanksgiving, basically.
All right. Well, Mike McGarry, happy Thanksgiving to you, man. It's been a lot of fun. We'll have the couple of opportunities, I'm sure, to see each other. Where are you going to be tomorrow?
I will be at Atlantic City Holy Spirit. Kind of scares me. They first played in 1926. I figured out that somehow I've seen like 30% of the Atlantic City Holy Spirit games.
I will
started back in 1926. It's frightening.
I will be calling that game tomorrow. I will see you there. Happy Thanksgiving, Mike.
All right, same to you guys. Talk to you later.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He's brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential services for your home and business online, calvielectric.com. All right, hour two. We're live at Vagabond Kitchen Tap House, Egg Harbor Township. Today's 99 bottles. And a lot of people I think we're already over 25 qualifiers that have shown up, which means you are already going to be picking 26th if you get here. Now, you're going to want to get here, sign in, hang out, have a couple cocktails. We'll start calling names. Everybody who shows up, all 99 qualifiers, all will walk away with a pair of tickets to something. We've got great memorabilia as well. If you're not a qualifier, you can still come down, put your name on the waiting list, and in the event that someone doesn't show up, we will go to the waiting list and we'll call you. So get on down, Vagabond Kitchen Tap House here. It's in Egg Harbor Township on Ocean Heights Avenue. All right? Big crowd already, man. Jeff Nadeau's here. We got so much to kind of dive into as the holidays here. It's a busy time of the year. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, Mike, how are you? Nice to see you as always.
I'm doing good. Now, I saw yesterday we had Jeff on a Wednesday. He's normally here Tuesday. You're doing what are you doing, like a documentary on yourself yesterday?
Yeah, I had a film crew here. They were filming a kind of like a 24/7 of me getting ready for this fight. You know,
I like
meeting my family, going to kind of where I used to live, and just kind of getting to know me a little bit. And yeah, it'll be out very soon.
All right, we'll have to look for that. I saw a little bit of the highlight. Was that your dad yesterday? I saw.
Yeah, that's my dad. Yeah, he, he's instrumental in really making me who I am, and kind of me being kind of the guy that I am. So yeah, he's not a big camera guy, but the best people on camera, the best people on camera, Mike, are the ones that don't really want to be on camera. So he was very good. He did a good job.
He did a good job. All right, it's a rough and rowdy December 10th.
That's correct. Yep.
West Virginia, and Jeff will be scrapping, getting a little scrap going on, and you can get more details. Follow him at Jeff Nadeau on Twitter for that. All right, Jeff, we got a lot to discuss here. We got Eagles and Giants this weekend. I want to get your take on, now that they've won 2 games in a row, here's the question I have for you. I know you're not a big Howie Roseman guy, and I'm not trying to defend Roseman or try to turn you into a Roseman guy, but my question is, do we feel that the organization is moving in the right direction?
I would say so. I mean, I think that I don't think they're that far off, Mike. You know, I think, they've obviously shown that the last couple of weeks. I think Jalen Hurts continues to show that, he's probably the guy that we need to have going forward. It's interesting with him because, he hasn't always had the greatest weapon group, but, they've started to run the ball effectively. The offensive line's good. They've taken care of business. And you have to wonder, Mike, if they just started to run the ball sooner, where they'd be right now. They maybe have 2 wins instead of the loss, a couple of losses that they have. They just could have turned into wins. So, I think they are. Obviously, they need some help on the defensive end. They're old, particularly on the line. And, Rodney McLeod, I think, is seen his better days. So, they definitely have some reinforcements they need to go and get. But they've banded together and done a nice job.
Yeah, I would agree with the defense needs. They need a player or 2, maybe 3 on defense, and they have that opportunity. And I look around the league, man. I see what's going on with the Giants and some of these other teams, the Bears, that just perpetually can't get out of their own way. And I bring it back here and say, we really don't have it all that bad. Sometimes, like, our expectations are, yeah, we want to win the Super Bowl every year. It's not realistic. But, man, you look around this league, and this organization is not as bad, I think, as sometimes we think, right? Or is that fair? Not fair?
Yeah, I think there's times, really kind of towards the end of certain regimes and things of that nature where it is bad. And look, it was bad at one point at this season, but, this city is quick to jump on. I know I'm quick to jump on them. It just seemed like Nick Sirianni wasn't getting it, right? Everyone seemed to understand, but him, and he finally started to get it, and it worked out. Listen, Mike, I'm going to keep saying it. The elephant in the room, Miles Sanders is not the guy. You got to get him out of here. Again, 2 fumbles over the weekend. He just throws off this team. I think Jordan Howard's a better player than he is right now. Scott's been good. Gainwell. I mean, do you really, do you make him inactive? You can't do that, I guess.
Well, and you got Howard hurt this week, so he's not going to play.
True. Right.
Yeah, so you're probably going to go back to – now, we know in Giant games, Boston Scott has had some monster games against the Giants.
Right.
2 of his best games ever have been games against the Giants. So interested to see if they give Boston Scott – you're right. I think that they just don't trust Sanders. I just don't think
Let me ask you, if let's say Howard's healthy this week, would you have to consider Sanders inactive? Those 3 are better options than he is.
I mean, he had 94 yards last week.
That one big run. He had a big run, yeah.
The thing that he gives you that the other guys don't, Howard doesn't, Scott doesn't, is if he breaks that second level, he can get a 75, 80-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is I don't think they trust him to hand the ball that close to the other team's end zone.
Yeah, no, that was rough. As I said, I was there on Sunday, and there was a kid in the row that I was in and says, watch, he's going to fumble. Next play, he fumbles. And it just seemed like it was going to happen. But, yeah.
Then he fumbled again. That he got lucky,
Yeah. No, look, you've hit it on the head, though, Mike. I think in this town sometimes we think it's a lot worse than it is. When you look around the league at a team like the Jets or the Giants or Houston, that's Detroit. That's real bad,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of organizations. I say, look, the Eagles, in my lifetime, I think I told you before, in the last 20 years, I think they have 5 losing seasons.
Right.
There's a lot of organizations that would switch places and do that. I get the fact that, there's been a lot of disappointing endings to some of those seasons. But, look, how many teams have multiple Super Bowls other than New England? Like 2 with the Patriots and the Steelers and the Giants, right? Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as we make it seem. It seems like the world's falling constantly around here, but it's not. I'm glad of all people that you could say that, though. Well, again, Mike, I'm willing to tell you, like, I don't hate Howie Roseman. I don't think he's particularly good at his job, but he has made some successful decisions. And if you're going to talk about – that's one problem we have, Mike, in America. We aren't willing to come off our high horse at times and say, you know what? I don't necessarily agree with that standpoint, but it was the right one. We use fact and we understand things. I'm willing to give the credit to Howie Roseman when he does good things, and he's done an okay job. They just need to get younger. They need to hit on this next draft coming up. It's important.
Absolutely. And look, I think it's fair to be critical of some of the misses as well, to suggest, hey, Jalen Reagor over Jefferson, that is obviously now a monster mistake. And look, those type of things do happen. And I laugh because you look at the Giants. I hate to bring the Giants, like, they can't hit on an offensive lineman. They have good skill players. The problem is their line stinks. The Eagles are the opposite. They keep hitting on all these offensive linemen. Their line's really good, and then they miss on the skill players. So it's like you have to start to marry them together at some point to get to that next level. That's where I think the Eagles, it's fair to be critical, is, hey, look, you're hitting on some of these guys, and they're keeping you competitive, because the Eagles stayed competitive for a couple of years when they were kind of falling apart because their offensive line was so good. And now you're seeing it again. They got this really good offensive line, and it has expedited, I think, where the offense is, because now they can run the ball because their line's so good.
How about that stiff Arcega-Whiteside finally gets a catch? Big catch it was, too.
It was. Now, were you sitting next to the woman who had the outburst, or it was viral?
She was pretty far from me, but I actually was listening to WIP on the way home, and they had her on, and I was thinking
she's been everywhere now.
I guarantee she's from Delco, and she 100% was. But no, listen, I often wish they'd film me at games. I would go viral. I think a lot of people would. I mean, Eagles fans are terrific. Yeah. They're unlike many others.
Oh, it's definitely – hey, listen, the reason that, I have a job is because of the passion of the fans and how much they disagree sometimes. Look, I'm a pretty level-headed guy if you haven't figured it out. Like, I don't get too crazy high knee-jerk reaction. I look at big picture a lot than night to night. Most fans are very night-to-night reactors. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we're game-to-game reactors.
Well, I think most people live their life like that, Mike, where they just have one tunnel vision of one thing, and they don't really know much else.
Yeah. Well, like the
year, and I are both good at kind of being able to take a look at multiple things at once and get through
the year that the Eagles lost to Miami a couple of years ago. I mean, that's the most embarrassing, disgraceful loss ever. And And I was like, look, they lost to the people lose to bad teams in the NFL. It happens. Well, they can't make the playoffs if you lose to Miami. And they go on and win 4 straight games, and they made the playoffs that year. And I was the guy on the air saying, look, I don't care that you lost to Miami. Is it embarrassing for that day? Yes. But it happens. Like, good teams lose in the NFL. And, I think sometimes we just need to put in perspective. But here's the thing. Now you're at the point, Jeff, where now you're expected to win. And that's where we're going to see where this team is. They're expected to win. This week, next week, the weekend, they got like 5 games where they're expected to win now.
Mike, I will say, though, this is a wild, like some of these receiver decisions in the drafts over the last couple of years are so bad. I mean, when we look back, like Arcega-Whiteside and Reagor, the thing that makes them so bad is they're not good. And also, every single player outside of them, drafted near them, is really good. Okay. Yeah. Like DK Metcalf is not even on the same stratosphere as Arcega-Whiteside. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, like they're all so much better than Jalen Reagor.
Well, here's the problem. The Metcalf thing, the problem with the Metcalf thing is I don't think the Eagles were allowed. Like, he had a medical red flag. People thought there was multiple teams that he was on the do not draft list.
Listen, Mike, then don't take Sidney Jones, okay?
True. That's a different injury, though.
Landon Dickerson. Like, you can't make that case and then say, well, we don't do that here, but we're going to do it with this guy. Like,
well, Metcalf had like a major neck injury that the doctors felt that he might never, ever play. So there were multiple teams that did. He went to the bottom of the second round. Teams passed on him twice, right? There were multiple teams that passed on him twice. Now, the Jefferson thing, 100%. And quite frankly, 3 other teams. Jerry Jeudy, not what you thought he was. Henry Ruggs, big time, obviously missed right now because of his off the field, but he wasn't all that great. CeeDee Lamb's pretty good, but he's not Justin Jefferson. 3 other teams also didn't think Jefferson was the best guy to take. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get, Mike. Listen, Mike Gill carries the water for Howie Roseman. He'll always do it. That's what he does. But listen, Mike, one final thing on the Eagles.
Yeah.
Would it kill this team to ever get, like, a legitimate returner that can return the ball past the 20? Like, I can't remember the last time they had do you remember, Mike, the last time they had a run over like 40 yards returning?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely. In fact, I said, yesterday the special teams guy Clay says, "Hey, Reagor's doing an excellent job." I said, "You got to be kidding me with that!" Like, he's
the reason
horrible
you inside
back
the
there.
10 was because he made you get the ball at the 18-yard line.
He's horrible.
This field position crap sucks.
He's horrible. Ward was terrible. Now, Ward was just basically there because they had nobody else. They did have Sproles for a while. You had Deshaun Jackson at times, but you're right. Like, they have had constant issues with. I'm glad you brought.
The last kick return they had, I believe, was Josh Huff, like 5 or 6 years ago. That was
the kid. What happened to him? Wasn't he the kid on the bridge or something? They got in trouble doing something.
No, I don't believe so. I know what you're talking about. Somebody.
No, he got arrested and then he got released, and Tampa Bay picked him up.
Yeah, somebody was speeding over the George or the Ben Franklin or something. No, that was I think it was Nelson Aguilar that happened. But either way, both are no longer on this team. Yeah. By the way, you know where Josh Huff is now, Mike?
What's that?
The CFL. He's in the CFL.
Oh, Josh Huff?
Yes.
All right, we got a lot of action this week, man. So we got 3 games tomorrow, NFL. We got college on Friday. We got the college basketball going on. So give us a couple thoughts. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of college stuff going on right now. I mean, like, the college football playoff I've been very into this week, and Cincinnati is now in, so that's a big game. Cincinnati ECU on Saturday. So give us a couple thoughts on the college football card this week.
That is an interesting game, Mike. Cincinnati, East Carolina. I wouldn't just gloss over this and think this is an auto win for Cincinnati. East Carolina is playing good football. They're on pace for an 8-win season if they could somehow win this wildly. That's crazy. They're a good defense. They can keep the ball away from Desmond Ridder. I think they have a shot, especially at home. I actually just talked to East Carolina people. I do a call with them right before I call you, and they're very hyped. This is the biggest game in Greenville in a long time. So I think they're going to be ready and raring to go. I think Cincinnati could struggle a little bit here. I also will point out, Mike, if Michigan is going to beat Ohio State, I think it's this year. I really do. We have to throw out one thing about Michigan in past years than in this year. In past years, they've had Dom Brown as their defensive coordinator. Dom Brown put his corners and safeties on islands all the time because he blitzed on every play. This defensive coordinator does not do that. They play stand-up traditional defense, and they do a good job of it. They can also run the ball, keep the ball away from a good offense. Wouldn't surprise me if at home Michigan hangs us within the number, maybe almost wins the game.
All right, let me ask you this. Cincinnati's number 4. If they win, okay, if they win, but Michigan wins, would Michigan jump over and would Ohio State stay in the 4?
If it were my decision,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Cincinnati, if you said if they win, you said?
If Cincinnati wins, they're still undefeated. Yeah. But Michigan beats Ohio State. So Ohio State is what, 2 now? They would lose. Would they drop from like 2 to 4, and Michigan jumps over Cincinnati and goes to 3?
If it were me, in that situation, if it were me and this happened, I would put Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and Michigan in the playoff. It's that simple. And look, if you don't agree, I'll just go to you and tell you this. Regardless of what you think about what they think of your team, these 4 teams make Scott, Mike. Not that Cincinnati won't. Nobody cares about Cincinnati. Nobody wants to see Cincinnati. This is why we have to take this away from the game and make the playoff 8 games or 8 teams. Stop with the 4-game crap. But no, I don't want to see Cincinnati in. And if that situation happened, because you look at Oregon, their 2 losses would be, or you look at Ohio State, their 2 losses would be Oregon and Michigan.
Right.
2 teams that are in the top 10. And one of them is in the top 4. So, yeah, if Michigan wins, they're in. Cincinnati would be out. Sorry.
What happens to Bama if they lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game?
I don't think
they're 3 now. They're 3 now. They moved from 2 to 3. So if they lose, they'll have 2 losses. If Michigan wins, does Alabama drop out?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that could happen too. I think they got to have some balls in them to take Alabama out. I mean, that's a machine right there. I don't think there's any way they put Cincinnati. I think I've said before and I'll say it again. I don't think a G5 team will ever make the playoff in the current situation. Just won't happen.
Well, people have said they don't want to see Notre Dame in. Notre Dame wins 55-0 last week. They're going to play again this week, and they have a chance to win again. And if a couple teams lose in front, they're 6. I'd hate to see them jump up to 4.
I'll tell you right now, Mike, I can make the case Notre Dame should be in over Cincinnati. And even though Cincinnati beat them straight up, that's hard to make a case for. But Cincinnati's schedule sucks. I mean, they haven't played anybody. It's just sorry. Oh, yeah. It is what it is.
To be fair, everybody's scheduled. There's not like this group of elite teams that everybody – it's like the NFL. Your Notre Dame schedule typically – you got USC, who's very down. They've got Stanford, who's down. They've got, a bunch of teams that they typically play who aren't this. They didn't play Michigan this year.
Mike, in the current way this format is, the playoff, it's just not possible for a team outside of an SEC or Big Ten team, maybe your occasional Big 12 or Notre Dame to make the playoff. It's just not going to happen. You'd have to be super good in the Pac-12, and a G5 team will not make it. It's just not going to happen.
All right, Jeff Nadeau. So you're getting ready for the fight. We got all the college football, college basketball season here. It's a glorious time. Happy Thanksgiving to you, man. Stay focused.
Same to you guys. Mike, I appreciate you having me on. I thank all the listeners. I always get people that say, hey, I heard you on Mike's show. I saw you on Mike's show. So thank you for listening. Thank you for having me on, and appreciate the kind words. Have a good holiday, Mike.
All right, Jeff. Good back and forth as always. Jeff Nadeau at Jeff Nadeau. If you want to see the rough and rowdy fight, follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau to get more information. All right, when we come back, what happened to the Giants? What can we expect? The voice of the Giants, Bob Papa, is going to join me from the Believe Podcast Network. He hosts the Believe in the Giants podcast. Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. All right, we'll do the fantasy fix in 20 minutes. Sky Guasco will answer your fantasy questions for Week 12. Text them in right now, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Fantasy football questions for Sky, 3:40 today. right here on the Sports Bash. I'm Mike Gill. This is 97.3 ESPN. All right, Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN, live at the Vagabond Kitchen Tap House, Egg Harbor Township. 99 bottles. Now, we're already up to 33 of the qualifiers who have signed in. We've got a bunch of people on the waiting list. So if you want to get on the waiting list, stop in, get on that waiting list, and hope that some of the people don't show up. Got a pretty full bar right now. And, of course, we're giving away tickets to all sorts of events. We've got Eagles-Washington tickets. We've got Flyers tickets, Sixers tickets, concert tickets, sports memorabilia, and so much more. 99 winners today. By the end of the show, we'll have 99 people walking out of here with a pair of tickets to go see a great game event here in our area. Eagles play the Giants this weekend, and you can hear the game with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick on 97.3 ESPN. Bob Papa is the voice of the Giants. He's also the host of the Believe in the Giants on the Believe Podcast Network, and he is set to join me right now with a closer look at this rivalry between the Eagles and Giants. It's kind of been the hammer and the nail recently here. Bob, how you doing? Yeah, and obviously, you know, the Eagles were a team with 4 wins. They kind of seemingly hit rock bottom, and we didn't know where this season was going. And I'm not sure we really know where it's going to end up, but 49 and 89, the Giants are over the last, however many years. Where have they gone off the track that they can't get back on? Obviously, Monday night was a rough night. It got Jason Garrett fired. And you look around at what this offense will look like this week. Is that something that you're anticipating to see? What are there going to be changes? Do you think they're going to look a little different? Or with what the current personnel is, were they going to kind of keep the same philosophy? Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup. Bob Papa's with us. Of course, Eagles-Giants this weekend. He's the voice of the Giants and host of Believe in the Giants on the Believe Podcast Network. And, the Eagles, obviously, they like to get their pressure up front. They don't blitz a whole heck of a lot, although they've added some of it in recent times. Let's flip over to the other side. The Eagles have decided all of a sudden that they are a collegiate running football team. I mean, it's almost like watching Alabama in the 80s run the ball. How do you see that matchup, the Giants defense against the Eagles run game all of a sudden? Bob, obviously, you look at the Eagles on the defensive side of the ball. They have had their struggles there. They've given up historically. I think there were over 80% completions 5 times. Is that something that New York can try to take advantage of? In other words, do they have the personnel to kind of chip away down the field? Because that's seemingly what John Gannon's willing to let you do. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, Eagles have won 20 of the last 25 games versus the Giants. They're 10-3, dating back to 2008. So obviously, the Eagles have had their way. What's the mood around this team right now with Garrett being out, the way they've lost, where this season has gone, seemingly all the injuries? I mean, does it have the look, Bob, of a season that's just another lost season for the Giants? Mm-hmm. It's definitely Bob, it's interesting. The Eagles, not a lot of expectations. All of a sudden, you're at the point where now people expect you to win a game, right? You got to go on the road and you need to beat a game. And I wondered if the Giants are looking at Philly as a team now. That a couple of weeks ago we were kind of joking that the Giants and Washington and Philly were like the Spider-Man meme on Twitter where they're all pointing at each other saying, well, you got these games coming up that you can win. It's like, well, in New York, they're probably saying we can beat the Eagles twice. And here they're saying, well, we got the Giants twice. Does the Giants still feel that way? Like, hey, we've still got Philly twice that we can kind of get our season back on track. Yeah. Well, I was there the night that Reggie White got his number retired in Philly, and the Eagles lost like 45-0 on a Monday night. That didn't help. But oh, yeah. Nope. I agree. It seems that all the hype is in that place, and then all of a sudden the air kind of gets let out. Well, the Eagles and the Giants, they meet again this Sunday, and you can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Bob Papa, the Believe Podcast Network, believe in the Giants, which I guess right now is kind of hard to do. But it's always fun when these two teams tussle, and they'll do it again in a couple of weeks, Bob. We appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Absolutely. Always good to catch up with Bob Papa to give you a good perspective. And, hey, right there, you heard it from the voice of the Giants that, quite frankly, Garrett was putting the wrong guys on the field. A lot of that stuff. Good breakdown. All right, fantasy football questions. Get them in right now, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Sky Guasco from the Fantasy Fix is coming up next from the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football on the Believe Podcast Network. He answers your fantasy football questions coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, time now for the Fantasy Fix on the Bash. It's brought to you by the Piccalilli Inn, your best pick for South Jersey's best wings, Route 206 in Shamong. Sky Guasco, our fantasy expert from the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Show on the Believe Podcast Network. You can check out his Stardom Sid'em show every Sunday morning live. Excuse me. Every Sunday morning live on the YouTube channel. And he joins me right now with a look at Week 12 Fantasy Football. Sky Guasco, welcome back, man. What's going on?
What's up, Mike? Great to be back. We got an interesting week this week. We're jumping a day early. We got 3 games coming up tomorrow, of course, with the festivities. So I'm happy to get into it.
Yeah, man. Let's all right, 3 games tomorrow. So everybody out there listening, don't forget you got 3 games tomorrow. That means you've got obviously 6 different teams that are in action. So Sky, give us the guys that need to be active for the fans out there today.
First things first, if you're playing somebody tomorrow, make sure you put them in their actual identified slot. So running backs and wide receivers primarily, get them out of your flex position. That'll let you make moves more easily on Sunday. So trick of the trade there. Let's start with the Bears and the Lions. Andy Dalton getting the start for Justin Fields. Robinson most likely out again with a hamstring. Darnell Mooney and David Montgomery are really the only ones I'm excited about for the Bears. Cole Kmet can be a streaming option as well. DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson, although frustrating, you fire up for the Lions. For the Raiders and the Cowboys, Jacobs, if you need a running back, although I'm not excited about him. Renfro and Waller, you have to play there in PPR leagues. Derek Carr could be a streamer, but Drake and other wide receivers I'm not interested in with the Raiders. The offense has been terrible since losing Ruggs for the Raiders. Dak, Cooper is out. Lamb is questionable. Zeke is a must start, but he's been beat up a little bit, and Schultz as well. So you start your Cowboys, but it's been tough there as well. Allen and Diggs and Knox, you stream for the Bills. And for the Saints, if Kamara plays, you play him. Ingram is hurt as well, so Tony Jones might be a sleeper there as well. Jawan Johnson with Troutman on IR. And then you have, of course, Bass, if you're into kickers as well, has been incredible for the Bills.
All right, so there you go. There's all your action for tomorrow. Let's look at some of the bigger questions that are happening for Week 12 in fantasy football. Let's start with, all right, what is happening? I mean, the Seahawks offense has been a disaster, but what are you doing with the running back situation there now?
Yeah, oddly enough, I'm not sure the running backs are the problem. Like, they haven't been effective, but Russ just isn't ready, obviously. That finger's bothering him. He's not Russ. He's been terrible, and therefore it's trickled down. Collins is the guy that you want, but he's not exciting. Carson's out for the year now with the neck injury. Rashad Penny gets another shot. He's hurt again. Homer and Dallas haven't really hit. So, honestly, I don't want anyone in this backfield. But if you're going to have a Seahawk, it's going to be Collins.
Okay, let's go to Baltimore with their running back situation, because right when Freeman starts to play well, it seems like now there's some options there.
Yeah, Freeman's still the guy, I think. The whole running game runs through Lamar, as we know. Missed last week, but he'll be back. Should be back at least. Latavius Murray's back as well. They released Le'Veon Bell. So Murray should be on your bench just in case, but Devonta Freeman's been in the last couple of weeks. He's scoring at will. I like Devonta Freeman, if anybody, in this backfield.
Okay, Rex Burkhead, is he a thing now?
I guess if you're really hurting at running back, but honestly, 18 carries, Mike, 40 yards. 2.2 yards per carry, not going to get it done. No targets, which is what Burkhead cut his teeth with the Patriots forever. Good pass catch running back. Didn't even use him like that. He had 7 total carries on the year before last week. David Johnson, 16 touches last week as well, 1.3 yards per carry. Phillip Lindsay was released. Mark Ingram now in New Orleans, of course. I don't want anybody on the Texans.
Okay, let's get some listener questions in. 609-403 0973, 609-403-0973. We start off with the tight end question. 1 point PPR, Logan Thomas or Freiermuth?
That's a great question. I'm going to stick with Freiermuth. Logan Thomas, I just want to make sure he's getting enough work there going in against Seattle on Monday Night Football. Freiermuth against Cincinnati, I think he's going to be fine. They targeted him on a shovel pass. He got shut down to 1, caught another touchdown. Ebron's back, but I do like Freiermuth.
Okay, wide receiver, 1 point PPR, Mooney or Devontae Smith?
Wow, that's a great question. I want to go with Devonta Smith. The Eagles have been on fire, as you mentioned, on the previous call there. They've been running the ball at will, but Devonta Smith is getting the targets, going up against the Giants, who just got shredded by Brady and the Buccaneers. And I'm going to stick with Devonta Smith. He's getting the workload there.
All right. 0.5 PPR. Need a tight end. One tight end, one flex. You got Rob Gronkowski, Ty Johnson, Freiermuth.
All right, so Freiermuth. So Ty Johnson's a running back in the mix there. If you're going to go with the running back, I guess you go with him on the Jets. Tight end specifically, though, let's roll again with Freiermuth. I mean, Gronk's fun, but I just don't know that he's totally healthy. AB might be back this week. Obviously, Godwin's and Evan. So, or Evans and Godwin, I should say. So I'm going to stick with Patty Freiermuth.
Okay, 1 point for a tight end here. Another Gronk question. How about Gronk or Knox?
I'll go with Knox going against Thursday night. Again, Thursday night with the Saints. The Bills, I think, are going to shake off the rust a little bit. Knox is back. He was dominant before he left. Wide receiver 3 on the year before he got hurt. I'm going to stick with Dawson Knox in that matchup.
Okay, wide receiver need one on a PPR. You got, obviously, Mooney had the big week last week. This happened last week with Rob. All these people, or Bobby, everybody was asking about the same guy because he had a big week. Mooney or Lockett?
Oh, boy. Yeah, Mooney, 16 targets. How do you get away from that? But now you have Andy Dalton instead of Fields, of course, there with the Bears. That's going to be tough. And Lockett, look, DK Metcalf still had more targets than him. He just has that deep connection with Russ. I'm going to go Lockett here against Washington on Monday night. I think they got to connect.
Okay. Tight end. A lot of tight end questions this week, too. Goddard, Dallas Goddard, or Knox, Dawson Knox?
I have Goddard one spot higher. Again, work share there. There's nobody else in Philly other than Smith, who we just mentioned, and a lot of other weapons there in Buffalo. So I'm going to stick with Goddard that way.
All right. This question just has Kamara with a bunch of question marks. I guess he's wondering, are you recommending Kamara? We don't really have an injury report on him yet.
Yeah, he didn't practice today, which is not good on a Wednesday, of course. They play tomorrow night. So if Kamara plays, you play him. And obviously if you don't, you don't. But if he suits up, you got to play him. If you don't, you got to scrounge for other options. I wish I knew there are other options for him. But if he plays, you play him. All
right. Here you go. This is an ugly situation for this gentleman here. Has a bye week problem. Do I start Ben Roethlisberger or do I go with, man, these are some ugly options for this gentleman, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, or what's that say? Oh, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I guess you go Daniel Jones. I know it's not exciting. The Giants were terrible in the second half, but it is the Bucs. The problem with Big Ben is he just can't throw deep at all. I mean, even when he chucks it deep, Claypool's getting underthrown. Deontay Johnson's getting overthrown. It's all short game with Najee and Freiermuth. So Daniel Jones has more upside, more safety maybe with Big Ben. So it kind of depends on the play, but I would pass on both T-Law and Baker Mayfield.
Okay, here's another Mooney or Waddle. And can I trust Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf?
Yeah, I don't know. Would I play him? Yes. DK Metcalf can beat anybody at any time. Russell Wilson should get better eventually. Again, Monday night in the spotlight. I like Russ to have a better game there. And again, Mooney's just going to be tough. I mean, do you trust the workload against the Lions? I'm okay with Mooney, but just close your eyes. Maybe it might be rough with Dalton.
All right, Sky Guasco is here from the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget his Start-Sit show is live on YouTube on Sunday morning starting at 10. All right, favorite plays, waiver wires, couple sleepers. You got the floor.
All right, my quarterback this week, Cam Newton at Miami, 6th most fantasy points to the quarterback position. 3 touchdowns last week in his first start back with the Panthers. Of course, he played 2 weeks ago, but his first start last week against the football team and his old coach, Ron Rivera. 2 passing and 1 rushing score. Miami's looked better getting healthy in the secondary, but they're still struggling. CMC, DJ Moore healthy. Cam is a weekly low-end QB1 for me moving forward. Running back, Antonio Gibson. He was hurt for about a month and a half. Very, very frustrating. 26 touches 2 weeks ago, 19 last week over his last 2 games against Tampa Bay and Carolina. Decent run defenses there. Seattle gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to running backs. Coincidentally, Washington football team won both of those games that he had 26 and 19 touches after losing 6 of their first 8. Maybe they found a recipe for success there with Antonio Gibson. Wide receiver, my man Brandon Ayuk for my 49ers, at least 7 targets in 3 of the last 4 games, a touchdown in 2 of the last 3. Devontae Adams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling each had 100 yards and a touchdown last week versus Minnesota. Minnesota gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. I like Brandon Ayuk to stay hot. And then Schultz on Thursday night against the Raiders for the tight end position. 8 targets with Amari Cooper out last week. CeeDee Lamb might miss this week as well. Amari Cooper out again. There should be more, Michael Gallup and Cedric Wilson, but there's nobody else there. And surprisingly, the Raiders have given up only the 6th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, so they're more susceptible, giving up the 4th most fantasy points to the tight end position. And if you're looking for a DST streamer, this might be ugly, but Houston Texans against the Jets. They went up against Miami 2 weeks ago, 15 fantasy points. Last week against Tennessee, obviously without Derrick Henry, but 16 fantasy points, 30 total NFL points against them, 31 total fantasy points. Not bad. 6 sacks, 6 interceptions, and 4 total fumbles. The Texans are hot. Don't look now. And the Jets, of course, give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing DSTs.
Yeah, Joe Flacco's in there too. You got to jump. Was Elijah Moore? I'm sure he was a hot pickup this week for everybody out there. All right, Sky Guasco is the host of the Candlestick Kids Fantasy Football Podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, and you can watch their live video show on Sunday mornings at 10. If we didn't get your question in this week, I apologize. We got a lot of questions coming in. I'm doing my best to get everybody's answered. We'll do it again next week. Get all your bye week guys. Get your Thanksgiving guys active. And Sky, have a happy Thanksgiving, man.
You too, brother. Good luck, everyone.
There you go, Sky Guasco, and he is brought to you, as always, by the Piccalilli Inn, your best pick for South Jersey's best wings, Route 206 in Chewang. All right, the matchups to watch in this game, Eagles, Giants, Jeff Mosher, football at 4. He's on the way. He joins me next here on the Sports Bash. I got my NFL Fine 5, Ugly 5 coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as well. Cup of Joe with Joe Valerio, former NFL offensive lineman, and Jeff Kerr tonight at 5:30. We're live at Vagabond Kitchen Tap House in Egg Harbor Township. 99 bottles, and we're already filling up the sheet. A lot of people here already registering for this year's 99 bottles. But if you did not register on air, you can get on the waiting list. Stop on out here on Ocean Heights Avenue.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers, and Flyers.
He scored!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destination all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. We have already over 50 people registered for today's 99 bottles. So you need to get here and get your name in because you're already picking 51st. The next person, oh, there's somebody there taking your spot. So 51 are already in of the 99. If you did not register on the air and you still want to come down and try to win, you can get on the waiting list. We do have a waiting list that is also filling up here. And starting in about a half an hour, we will start to give away some prizes to anybody who is in the building today. So with that, I bring in Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, building an empire over there. Jeff Mosher, what is going on, man?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
Very busy, man. You should see this place. It is packed right now.
I can hear it.
Would-be or hopeful, we should say hopeful winners is what we have here. 99 hopeful winners. But we hope the Eagles win. I talked to Bob Papa in the last hour. And a lot of, he admitted a lot about this Giants team really on some hard times right now. So I want to start off with this. Are the Eagles at the point in this particular game with this particular opponent that you should expect to win this game?
Well, I think they should expect to be favored in the game. It's a division game. So you always, for whatever reason, division games they never seem to go according to script. But I do think the Eagles they're obviously, I don't know if they're going to be the favorite. I haven't seen the line. I know it's at New York, so I'm not 100% sure what the line is right now. I think the Eagles are playing better. I don't know, though, that if you just look at the 53 of the Eagles and the 53 of the Giants, that you say that one team is definitively better than the other. That's where things like momentum and coaching and injuries come into play. And the Eagles obviously have the momentum. They have fewer injuries, although they've got a few that could really matter in this matchup. And clearly their coaching has been a lot better than the Giants' coaching as of late, and that's why you saw a coaching change.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the injuries and all that kind of stuff here. By the way, Eagles are favored by 3.5, so you're a 3.5-point favorite on the road all of a sudden. How things have changed really quick here. So let's look at some of the matchup situations in this game, Jeff. I want to get your opinion on. One, Eagles want to run the ball, obviously. We think now – okay, let's start with that. Do we feel confident in saying that's what they want to do? Are they committed to that?
Yes. I thought Nick Sirianni made an interesting point about getting too conservative, though, in the second half against the Saints. And he said, yes, we want to run. That's what we do. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to throw. The second part of that is, Mike, Jalen Hurts, you have to I'm sure you listen to his press conferences. He's very, I don't want to say he's sensitive, but he doesn't like the idea that this is considered a running team. Even when he was talking to the locker room, we're a nasty team. That's our identity, not necessarily a running team. He doesn't want it perceived, and no quarterback does, that the offense is a run-heavy, run-first offense, even though that it is. So at some point, we've talked about this yesterday and even last week, at some point, there's going to be a time where the Eagles do have to throw the ball more than 15 to 20 times to win a game. It could be this week.
So with that, you've got Philadelphia wanting to run the ball. Their offensive line, one of the areas that is healthy, even though they are down 2 starters on that offensive line, they have the same 5 guys together for the last couple of weeks. How do you see the Giants being able to stop this running game?
Ooh, you're asking me to predict what's sort of unpredictable. I imagine that the Giants might be.
Do they have the personnel The Saints, we thought, had the personnel to maybe give you a challenge. This is obviously a step back. So if Philly wants to run the ball, seemingly, Jeff, they probably should be able to.
Yeah, I would think so, but I do think the Giants will try to do something different. I think at this point you have to. When I mean that is you probably will see an opponent try to play more 5-man defensive lines, a 5-man front, which is sometimes called a bear front. They've got a lot of run stoppers, actually, to be able to do that. A guy like Danny Shelton, they've got Dexter Lawrence, Austin Johnson, Leonard Williams. Those are guys who are good defensive linemen. And obviously when you throw an extra defensive lineman out there, then you're either short at linebacker or short in the secondary, and maybe you're not in nickel, and you have to ask your guys to cover a little bit better. But I would tend to think that you're going to see that kind of adjustment where the teams, the Saints did not sell out, and they probably felt that they were good at stopping the run. They were the number one team, and they shouldn't have to. And they probably look at some of the tape and think they should have done some schematic things differently. But I don't think the Giants are going to make that kind of mistake in thinking that they can just play their normal defense and stop the run.
Right. So then, in I guess the next question would be, Dallas Goedert is a big part of the offense, and the Saints were a team that were pretty good against the tight end. If the Eagles want to throw the ball, who's the guy who has the best situation to be a part of the offense?
Well, ordinarily I wouldn't say whoever's James Bradbury is lined up against, but for whatever reason he has not had as good of a year as he's had in the past, and certainly as he had last year. Now maybe that changes within a different defensive structure, but you would think Devontae Smith would have a pretty good matchup against him if that's how it is. Again, you mentioned Dallas Goedert should be there, but at some point there's got to be that third guy, whether it's Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Hightower, anybody, someone, whether it's a running back catching passes. I don't know who it's going to be, but at some point I think they're going to need another option to present itself in the passing game.
Yeah, J.J. is now a part of the game plan apparently, right?
Well, I guess I have to put him in there since he has more receiving yards than any of the other guys I mentioned over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
I actually wondered when they showed the aerial shot of that play on television, I was wondering where he was lined up at, and almost was half thinking, are they having him lined up as almost like a tight end? You know what I mean? Like, where were they putting him in the offense? And, of course, he was lined up kind of hidden in the slot over there. It was a sneaky, nice little play. Yeah,
they have been lining him up in the slot lately. They just have been doing that when they run because he's a big body. He's the biggest body they got at wide receiver. I don't know if you caught it, but 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks? Yeah, the Denver game, Adam Archuleta accidentally called him a tight end. He called him a tight end.
I did not hear that, no.
Yeah, kind of, it was funny. There was some Twitter poking fun at it. So, so that's basically been his job. And, he obviously, that was an RPO, I think, where they caught the defense off guard and threw it to Arcega-Whiteside. But someone's got to step up and make more plays for the passing game. It's going to have to happen at some point.
Yeah, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday, but I guess we can expand on it. Are they not making plays in the pass game because the receivers are not making plays, or are they just not being called on to make a lot of plays?
Well, that's a good question. All I know is that I can tell you is that Nick Sirianni, going back to like the first 3 weeks of the season, has talked extensively about sometimes you have to call plays for certain players. It's players over play calls, right? And he's talked about having specific play designs for certain players, meaning you schemed it up. You know you're going to face zone, so you run specific, maybe a flood route, something specific where a guy should be open against that zone, and you say to the quarterback, this is where the ball is intended to go, let's do it, right? And they've got to, I think the offensive staff has to do a better job of calling on those kind of plays. I also think it would help them to, even though that they've found their kind of identity lately running out of the shotgun to spread out the defense, it would help to go under center and work play action off of that look, draw the defense in, and be able to hit someone across the middle, whether it's Reagor, whether it's Quez Watkins, to force that issue there. If you remember a couple weeks ago, they did that. They came out with 3 tight ends and 1 wide receiver. The 1 wide receiver was Quez Watkins. And they obviously just ran the ball in that situation. But maybe next time you do that with Quez or Jalen and you throw the ball in that situation, and there is no other outlet.
Yeah. Oh, they ran that, 13 kind of personnel with Jackson, Stoll, and Goddard. Like they were running the three of those guys bunched together. And it's funny you say that Watkins was the guy on the field, because at that point I'm saying, man, I'd like to see them kind of have him jet sweep the one way and have the three tight ends blocking down on the other side. It was weird. The game plan that they used in Atlanta is almost like they ripped that page out and just threw it away.
Well, that's because they tried to do it the week later and a week later, and everybody was onto it by then. That was like 7 or 8 screen. Remember, they opened up that first drive against Atlanta with 3 consecutive swing passes to Quez Watkins.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can only get away with that for a certain amount of time. But I think Kyle Shanahan is really good at, you just mentioned misdirection. One of the things the Eagles did really well a couple of days ago in the run game was those what you call pin pulls, where you have maybe the center and the tackle or the guard and tackle pull left, but you can run the ball to the right. It's a misdirection play where you get everybody on the defense flowing one way, but the ball is actually going the other way. You can do that in the play action game as well and easily get a guy open just leaking out on the misdirection side just to get the ball in his hands. Detroit, first series, it's different, but they gave Jalen Reagor 3 carries, if you remember. And I think he was averaging like 11 yards a play on that because he was catching him off guard, and then he hurt his ankle, and that went away. But I feel like they've got to go back to doing that a little bit more and diversify this offense.
Yeah. All right, let's look at John Gannon's defense. The Giants have a new offensive coordinator. I don't know how that changes things, but when you look at the Giants and the Eagles defense, that matchup, what personnel would make you say, this worries me?
Looking at what the Giants have offensively, you said?
Yeah. With the Eagles personnel, you're John Gannon.
Yeah.
What on the Giants personnel do you say, that worries me?
Well, first of all, right, I'm concerned about I may not have Darius Slay. So that's a big concern right now because to answer your question, the Giants have perimeter weapons. Now, Kadarius Toney, I believe, was limited today. We'll see if he's going to be able to play. If he plays, he's a tough matchup. He's silky smooth, good route runner, explosive for a rookie. So he's a scary guy. Sterling Shepard's also been on the injury report. We'll see if he can play. Kenny Golladay is a tall, physical receiver. So those 3 guys right there. And then you want to throw Evan Ingram in, a very fast tight end who could have ended a game against the Eagles last year if he just caught the ball, right? Those 4 guys right there, Toney, Ingram, Shepard, Golladay, and then you add Saquon Barkley. I think that this team has infinitely more weaponry, right, than, say, the team they just played, the New Orleans Saints, who really had almost nobody. So that's what you look at the Eagles, right, Mike, and you knew even when they were losing that they had good running backs and a good offensive line, and if the coaches could figure out a way to just kind of narrow it down to using what they do well, you could see the Eagles doing well, and you've seen that. And same thing with the Giants, and maybe a new play caller here is going to make a difference, but they have weapons, and if their coaches can figure out a way to run a quick game, take the pressure off that offensive line, and use those weapons to their advantage, they can probably be a dangerous offense.
So one reason they're not such a dangerous offense, Moshe, is their offensive line's hideous.
Yeah.
So my question with that is, because they don't have a good offensive line, does John Gannon say, I don't need to blitz as much because we should win up front?
Yeah, and again, the Darius Slay part comes into question. If he's not out there, then I doubt Jonathan Gannon's going to blitz a whole lot because he's probably going to want to protect Zach McPherson as much as possible. And that might not be the right decision. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying it seems that when Slay is off the field that he gets really, really timid with what he wants to do. It's a good question. I mean, I would like to think that he would force the issue. But again, this is a team that does have weapons. And I'll say this, and if I wind up being wrong about this, that's fine. I've watched the Giants a couple times this year. I do sometimes think their offensive line is not as horrendous as it's been called. I think that the play calling and the ability, like Daniel Jones rolling right and throwing left to a fat guy, McClendon, that wasn't on the offensive line, right? I mean, he was rolled out into the place where the pressure was coming from. So I think a different perspective and maybe some different play calls could make this offense look better than it is. Maybe it's not going to be a 28 to 30 point per game offense, but better than what you've seen.
Well, Bob Papa actually said that. I mean, he said we were mystified sometimes that you're in certain personnel groupings at certain parts of the field thinking, why are these guys in the game and not other guys? So obviously they had a lot of questions as to the way. I don't know that Freddie Kitchens is going to come in and fix that. But one thing we know about Kitchens is as the offensive coordinator, they liked him enough to give him the head coaching job. It was as the head coach that he wasn't very good.
That's correct. If I'm not mistaken, the year before is when Baker Mayfield was a rookie and actually had a pretty good year. I mean, it looked.
Well,
I know that
they liked him and Mayfield together so much they made him the head coach.
Exactly. Oh, look, I think there's going to be a difference. I really do. I'm not saying the Giants are definitely winning this game. I'm just saying I think they're going to show you. Plus, now you have the element of surprise. You don't exactly know how they're going to try to come and hit you. So you might be timid from a defensive coordinator standpoint just because they might be doing some looks that, they talk about the unscouted looks all the time. That might be happening a lot. So I do see this being kind of a chess or a checkers type of match, and the game's probably going to take a little bit to get settled out. I can see the first two quarters being very wacky.
Yeah. Obviously, the Giants defensively, let's kind of look. We talked about the run game here, but Jalen Hurts, he's obviously the X factor here. And is this a game where the Giants – it's almost come to the point now, how are these teams going to start defending Hurts? What are they going to try to do? Do the Giants have somebody that can – you used to use the word spy a lot, right? Do they have that type of personnel?
Well, the Giants do have some decent athletes in the secondary, more so probably in the secondary than they do – at linebacker. The kid from Alabama, Xavier McKinney, is pretty decent. I know their nickel corner has played pretty well for them, who's Darnay Holmes. So any one of those guys can make, I don't think they're averse to playing those three safety packages. Julian Love has been on the field, so they'll probably try to do something to keep an eye on them. I told you, the Saints clearly adjusted their pass rush. They did not let their defensive ends get all the way upfield because they were afraid of Hurts kind of breaking out of the pocket and doing damage. So what happens? He does damage by running inside the pocket, like on that last touchdown run. He is a difficult puzzle to solve right now. That's the beauty of when you're doing something well. Everybody's always going to start to look to take it out, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and, it's funny you say that. It's this is. We talked yesterday about what took them so long to figure this out. You wonder if Hurts had any input on this. Like, was at some point was he saying, hey, guys, you might want to use me a little differently? Or does he just kind of, hey, the coaches are the coaches?
Yeah, I suspect that he has not. Again, he's not really thrilled with the idea that this has become labeled as a run-heavy, run-first team. So, but I think he does have to appreciate the fact that because they are, just like the Ravens do, they're able to use the quarterback run and catch teams completely off guard or off balance because of it. So that part he has to be appreciative of. I don't know if he went to the coaching staff and lobbied for it, but I think it's been a good byproduct of it.
Right, because, the reason I asked it in that way, it's almost because it's such a drastic change, You went from they ran the ball 3 times in a game to 50 times almost in a game. That's as drastic as you could get. So you wonder, I don't know, did Sirianni just say, hey, if we're going to run it good, I'm just going to keep doing it? Or did the quarterback say, look, we can do it. Let's do it. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, no, I still think, if you go back to, which game was it? The Chargers game. They had ran the ball so well against the Lions. And even in the Chargers game, they tried to come out and throw the ball more so than run it. And Jalen had kind of a difficult first half, and then they just said, forget it, we're going to go back to running it. And then in the Denver game, they diversified their run. I feel like that they did the right thing in saying, we're not just going to go downhill under center an entire game. Everybody's preparing for that, so we're going to spread it out. And they did allow. I thought the first half, the running numbers are great because not only are they running a lot, but they're getting some good chunk runs. So it's a lot of rushing yards in general, but Jalen threw the ball well in the first half. It's just in the second half they were up so much that he only had to throw 3 passes. But, as I keep saying, I know that they are anticipating the game where they're going to have their run game tripped up a little bit, and they're going to have Plan B ready.
All right, Jeff Mosher, of course, from the Inside the Birds podcast. We've got the Eagles and the Giants this Sunday, and obviously Eagles win, they would be 6-6. The Giants have got all sorts of problems. Their season is essentially, they're in this thing kind of, I guess, but they're certainly behind the 8 ball. Philadelphia half game out, so this is a big game for Philly. And let's kind of get your crystal ball on what you see. I know it's early in the week.
Ooh,
it's Wednesday,
early.
but we're off a couple days here. So how's this game going on Sunday?
I'm wrestling with it because I'm a law of averages guy, right? And it's not like the Eagles have won 5 in a row. I mean, it's only 2 in a row, but it is 3 out of 4. The Giants.
By the way, it is 20 of the last 25.
Wow. Wait,
80%.
the Eagles. Who's that?
The Eagles have won 20 of the last 25 games, including 10-3 in games away dating back to 2008.
Oh, you're talking about against the Giants. Okay, I was like, what?
Yes.
20 out of 25. Where did that come from? Yeah, wow, that's pretty impressive there, and that just goes to show you why the Giants have been so awful for the last almost 6-7 years now.
10-3 in New York, by the way.
Yeah, I have a sneaky suspicion and because of the change that they're making, that the Giants are going to come out on top here, like in a wild, wacky game, like a 26-23 type of win. But I might change that like 3 times before our pregame show on Sunday. So I'm just kind of feeling that right now. Listen, right, I know, and you know what's going to be if the Eagles lose. Like everybody's going to say that someone's got to get fired. It's the worst thing in the world. The Giants can win this game. I mean, 2 weeks ago they beat the Raiders, and the Eagles got clobbered by the Raiders. So I mean, you know how you more than anyone talk about the week to weakness of the NFL. So it's not the worst thing in the world if the Eagles lose this game. It's all part of the growing and the maturing of this team. Not going to win every game.
Yeah, and by the way, that's not going to be me. I'm the guy when they lost to the Dolphins a couple of years ago. It said, Look, you're going to lose a game. They're going to lose one of these games that they're not expected, or Vegas says they're going to lose one of them. It might be Giants. I don't think it's going to be the Jets.
Right.
And I say it, I don't think it's going to be the Jets. The Jets' run defense is really bad.
Their everything is really bad.
Yeah. Washington is going to be interesting. We'll see.
I think that's the toughest game. Yeah, I think Washington's probably better than the Giants right now. So if the Eagles were playing Washington, it might almost pick them. But yeah, I just think that we'll see what happens, man. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens.
The area that the Giants stink in is the one where the Eagles take advantage of you, and that's when you have a bad offensive line.
Yeah, and
I see Hargrave and Fletcher. I mean, Will Hernandez is the worst-rated guard in all of football. He's 191 out of 191, which I'm surprised by. I thought that was like a good pick by them and said, man, because they got Thomas and Hernandez in that draft. You're thinking, wow, they really went after the line and fixed this thing. They need Howie Roseman to draft the lineman for them.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Sure. Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see if this change in play calling and in structure of their offense matters and makes their offensive line look a little bit better than it is, or than it showed so far. Yeah.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Jeff Mosher, happy Thanksgiving. You guys are going to be doing the show, I imagine, Sunday, right?
We will be. We will be there, 10 a.m.
Sunday off. 10 a.m. on the Inside the Birds YouTube channel. It's Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Jason Avant, Quentin Michael, Greg Cosell. It's a great show to get you ready for the Eagles and the Giants. And, of course, you can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Moshe, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you, Mike. Have a great one.
All right, man. There's Moshe. Good stuff. Football at 4, brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience at Caesars.com. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash 99 Bottles live today at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, where it is a packed house, EHT. I mean, it is literally packed in this joint. Packed. And we still have about an hour before 99 Bottles begins. So check in, get your name on the list. If you want to get your name on the waiting list, you could do that as well. We do have a waiting list for the people who could not qualify on the air, but we are closing in on our 99 qualifiers. Some gentleman dropped me off a 6-pack of beer. This looks pretty enticing. We have room for you down here, so stop on down. The PT's in the house. We're going to do a Fine 5, Ugly 5 on the other side. And Joe Valerio tonight at 5. Stick around for that. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Hi, 4:30. Welcome back. Sports Bash is live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And this hour of the show is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. It's time for the Fine Five, Ugly Five, five best, five worst teams in the league. And obviously, we've got a mess of teams at the bottom of the list here that although I think one of the teams is a new entry in my Ugly Five this week. One team is now out of the Ugly Five. They've actually were the number one team in my Ugly Five for a little while there, and they are now out of the Ugly Five. So congratulations to that team. I'll tell you a little bit about them in just a second. Sorry, there's a lot going on here. We're at 99 bottles. I want to reset the scene. 99 bottles, Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, Egg Harbor Township. We've got a ton of people who have already entered or registered. Many of our registrations are already here in the building. If you have not gotten here yet, obviously there's still space for you. But if you did not register on air and you still want to be at 99 bottles, we have a waiting list. In the event, when the event begins and we do not have all 99 people here, we will start to call off the waiting list. So you can kind of get yourself down here for that. And we got a great house, man. We're packed already. Pete Thompson in the house. Peter, Peter's going to be emceeing the 99 bottles event. So he's going to be getting on the mic in the house here, calling everybody's name, handing out all the prizes, doing all that kind of stuff. All right, ready for the Fine Five, Ugly Five, five best, five worst teams in the league. All right, number 5. I can't believe that this team is actually in my Ugly Five, but I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. How about that, Josh? Are you surprised? Seattle is in my Ugly Five. I'm putting them in number 5.
I'm shocked that Seattle is this bad. I mean, I thought they would get better when Wilson came back. It's like they're worse.
They've been dreadful offensively the last couple of weeks. And as Sky mentioned, we were doing the fantasy, he just doesn't look like the same guy right now. It looks like he rushed himself back. But right now, it was between them and the Giants, to be honest with you. And the Giants just firing their coach and all that stuff. I probably should have gone with them. But you know what? I didn't have expectations for the Giants. I do have expectations for Seattle. That's why they got in at number 5 this week. You know who's out, by the way? No longer in the Ugly Fives, Miami.
Yeah, Miami squeaked their way out.
They did squeak their way out. All right, number 4 this week, we're going to go with the you could bounce these guys all around, but I'm going to go Houston this week because they won. Houston won last week, and they beat a good football team. I mean, so that moves you down a couple of notches. They've been the number 1 worst team for me for a couple of weeks. They're dropping down to number 4. Congratulations to them. They got to win. They're the 4th worst team in the league. Number 3 on my list, we're going Detroit because the Lions, obviously they got the tie a couple of weeks ago, but they still don't have a win. And that says something when you don't have a win and you're not the worst team in the league, right? That still says you're at least competing hard, you're trying hard. So Detroit's number 3.
You like that Dan Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, they fight hard, man. I like him. All right, number 2, we got Jacksonville, who lost now 2 games in a row. They lost again. Jacksonville got beat up pretty good last week by San Francisco. So Jacksonville jumps up to the number 2 spot. These guys are all interchangeable. Number 1's the Jets. I mean, the Jets lost again. They got pounded again. They're just – look, maybe Joe Douglas knows what he's doing. Maybe they're going in the right direction. Maybe they're going to be a great team down the line. He's added some offensive linemen. But, man, watching that team play is painful. They are so bad right now.
Here's a little side note for you, Mike. The New York Jets defense has allowed more points this year than any team in the NFL.
They're terrible. They are so bad, and it's not getting any better.
And somehow they beat the Titans.
Yeah, the Titans, man. They All right, let's go to the Fine Five. 5 best teams in the league. Here we go. Number 5, we are going with Dallas. Is number 5 this week. Number 5 is Dallas this week. All right, Cowboys, I hate to put them in the 5, but their offense, even though they lost last week, they're still pretty good. They got a good offense. They have a lot of injury problems, though. That's one of the reasons why they're playing poorly. Number 4 in the Fine Five this week, we're going with New England. New England is in there, number 4 in the Fine Five. Hey, I know a lot of people. I've been on this team a little earlier, but love their defense, what they bring. They're doing a great. I love the kid Mac Jones, man, and I just think they're clicking right now. So I got New England's number 4. Number 3, we're going with Kansas City right now has jumped back in. Kansas City is at number 3 in the Fine Five. Now, Kansas City beats Dallas, but they've now won 4 games in a row. The problem is they haven't been very impressive in any of the 4 games that they've won, really. I mean, other than the Raider game. They look good in the Raider game.
Their offense is confounding at times. It seems like that certain drives, Patrick Mahomes looks like Pat Mahomes. Other drives, I have no idea what they're trying to do.
Well, they got their defense back together a little bit, and that's one of the reasons why I like them. Number 2, I'm going with this week, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just smacked the Giants around coming off the bye. I feel pretty good now that they're focused for the stretch run. Thanksgiving's here, December football. You're going to start to see Brady and that team take off. So I like them at number 2. And number 1 this week, I'm going to go Arizona. I don't love this Arizona team, and this is why I think the league's pretty wide open. But I got to give them credit for winning multiple games with the backup quarterback, and they keep winning. So I'm going to go Arizona this week, but that tells me that the league is wide open, that 14 playoff teams, the AFC, Josh, all 7 AFC playoff teams have a shot.
Absolutely, they do.
There is no clear-cut favorite, and Tennessee's probably going to get in the playoffs. And
They're going to win the division, yeah.
As a shell of themselves, right? They're going to get in there as a shell of themselves.
They're hoping that Derrick Henry returns for Week 17, and they'll have him for the postseason. But I feel like that might be a hope and a prayer right now.
What was his injury?
I got to double check, but I thought it was a knee injury.
I thought he had an ACL injury. I thought he was with an ACL. They didn't put him on the IR, though?
Well, they didn't put him on the season-ending IR. They put him on the IR with designation to return.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I think the AFC wide open. The NFC, I mean, you're going to get a couple of. I mean, if Philadelphia gets in, I don't think that they're a team that can win the Super Bowl, right? I don't think the 6th seed, your Minnesotas, your Saints, your 40. Like, I don't know that they can win a Super Bowl.
So Derrick Henry had a Jones fracture.
Oh, really?
Yes. So according to Diana Rossini this week, there is optimism that Henry will be back by early January from his Jones fracture. Apparently, he's ahead of schedule in his recovery.
That's interesting because that Jones fracture injury, we hear a lot of, isn't that what kept Ben Simmons out for the whole year?
Well, it also depends on where the fracture is, what part of the foot it is. How high in the bone it is, how low it is, how deep it is.
Yeah.
There's all these variables that go into this stuff.
Gotcha. All right, there's my.
I'm not a doctor. I just play one on radio.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised you didn't say, I've had that injury before.
No, never had that one.
Okay. So, all right, we come back. We got plenty more to do. We'll do a little happy hour Friday with PT on a Wednesday here. So we'll bring him on to the conversation. Want to get his thoughts on that Flyer game last night. They were terrible. Oh, wow. PT snapped. He said they were terrible. That was like the sharpest opinion I've ever heard from the PT. All right, we're live at Vagabond Kitchen Tap House, 99 bottles. Huge crowd right now, but not all 99 people are here yet, so you can get on the waiting list if you did not qualify. If you're in the area, Egg Harbor Township is where we are. Stop in. By the way, the bar is full. Great television setup. The food is fantastic. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. 45 Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Well, it's not a happy hour Friday, but it feels like happy hour, PT. I mean, this place is packed.
It's a wonderful thing, right? I was trying to think today about the number of 99 bottles contests that you and I have been involved in.
I had a guy who said he won a pair of tickets at to the Eagles Green Bay game. So I don't even know when that was, but I mean, we're going back to tailgaters in Galloway.
Yes, that was a long time ago. I mean,
we've been all over the place.
We've had a lot of locations, but I can honestly say this is one of the nicer places that we've been.
Well, it's very nice. They did a great job with this place, but I will tell you, this is one of the most packed I've seen it at this stage. I mean, a lot of people usually come in late.
Right. There's a rush in the 5 o'clock hour or the 4:45 hour, and then, okay, let's all get in. But here's the thing. Nobody's working tomorrow, right? So everybody knows this is a great way to kick off your Thanksgiving Eve.
But nobody works every year on Thanksgiving, PT.
Dude, you work every year on Thanksgiving,
well,
and usually I do as well.
I'm talking about the
real folks.
The people who qualify.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we are. Area, where are we at right now?
How many people?
Wow.
77. Paul Coffey.
There's number 77 right there. He just signed in.
Plus
24 already on the waiting list.
Yeah, now that's a smart move. I just, I don't know if you saw, I put on social media, I put on Twitter and Facebook that we're here. And I always encourage people to come out and be a part of this, even if they didn't manage to qualify leading up to it, because there's always spots, it seems. There's always, look, trying to get 99 people to show up for something is very difficult, regardless of what it is and who it is and with the promise of tickets and stuff. Yeah. Now, yesterday was when you figured out, by the way, too, that game, the Eagles and Washington football game, we now know the time and the date. It won't be Saturday. It'll be Sunday.
Sunday, right. Yeah. Now, did you see some of the prizes this year?
Those are awesome, man.
We got those. We got the 3/4 zipper ups over there.
Oh, I like 3/4 zips.
We got the Eagles 3/4 zips. We got the Eagles mugs. We got the Eagles scarves.
I got to tell you, I got my eyes on that gritty thing like that. It's like a little – it's not a bobblehead doll. What would you call that?
It's just like a miniature –
like a gritty – what? It's not
a replica of it.
Yeah. I got it. Figurine. Is it wooden?
Yeah. It's like
let me see that thing.
It's nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to get Jen to give me the information.
Maybe we should take the price off it before we give it away.
I'll have to.
I will say this: it wasn't cheap.
I still have to give you the information on who donated these to us, but the 3/4 zip, all these figurines, these are all part of 99 bottles. So somebody's going to get all three of these, I believe.
That's the prize. You get all three of them, or you get all four? How many?
Three.
Four? Three?
There's no sixer guy.
Oh, well, what are you going to do? Reincarnate hip hop?
Well, they got the guy now.
Remember that? You going to bring back the sad-looking Trix bunny?
What's the guy now? His name?
Franklin, right?
Franklin.
It's a dog.
So, in lieu of one of the bottles, in lieu of a pair of tickets, they will get this. Somebody will get that package over there that has the 3/4 pull-up. You've got the Eagles scarves. You got we got a ton of tickets too, by the way.
As I'm looking at these TVs too, by the way, and there's a TV everywhere. I mean, there's nowhere you can go in this joint and not see a television. Can we next year try to either get assigned to or get tickets to this tournament, whatever this is, this battle for Atlantis? I mean,
Bahamas,
dude, are you telling me that your lady wouldn't be like, "Oh, you're taking me"?
You know what's funny? You say that. Last night, so it's this time of the year, looking for some time off, looking to do something, and I said to her about. It's bowl season. Well, she went to East Carolina. They're bowl eligible already.
Okay.
West Virginia needs to win on Saturday to become Kansas.
Oh.
To become bowl eligible.
That'd be the same Kansas team that beat Texas?
Yes. West Virginia just beat Texas last week. If West Virginia wins, they will become bowl eligible.
Okay.
So I was looking at the bowl predictions.
Of where they might go?
One of the bowls is the Bahamas Bowl. Well, I don't think West Virginia.
Oh, see, now I want to see. Would West
Virginia
Virginia and ECU ever meet?
Yeah, I mean, they used to play all the time. In fact,
you would go to that automatically, right?
When I was in college, West Virginia and ECU played almost every year.
Okay.
We've looked. You could go look at the future schedule.
Did Temple ever play East Carolina? Because
I
feel like
the
they
American.
Did. Oh yeah. Okay, for a while there.
Now.
Oh, they do now.
Yes.
Okay, I knew I'd seen it go by.
West Virginia
Temple's
is playing West Virginia is playing East Carolina in Greenville in 2026.
Book it now.
Well, I just went there for the first time this summer. We went to
And
Greenville.
you loved it, right?
Well, she hasn't been to Morgantown yet,
Oh,
but I was looking at
well,
the
that's
schedule,
sort of a rite of passage.
right? I haven't been back to Morgantown either, by the way.
I know, but you need to go back. It's
I
been
know.
too long.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I said, well, what if we found a cool bowl game? Well, the bowl game spots for ECU, oddly enough, one of the predictions is the Military Bowl, which we were just there.
Oh, yeah, Annapolis. Yeah, did you have a nice time down there?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved the
Did
stadium.
you go out in Annapolis, too?
No, well, the game was at 3:30.
How about breakfast? Because there's a place called Chicken Ruth's Deli.
This would have been
It's
nice
right
to
there.
have. This information would have been nice.
Oh, I probably should have told you that.
Yes.
Yeah, well, first of all, the State House is right there. So just like in Jersey, Trenton, the big State House, the big Capitol, right? In Annapolis, the State House is right there. And this Chicken Ruth's
Yeah,
Deli.
but the stadium is kind of off the beat.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a ways a little bit over on the Academy grounds. But the Academy grounds are kind of right off of the water
Yeah, see,
there.
where we stayed,
Obviously, it's the Naval Academy.
where we stayed, there was a park and ride across the street from the hotel. So the guy we stayed, he knew, stay at this hotel right across the street. There's a bus that takes you to the stadium.
Oh, he knew the whole.
He knew the whole thing.
Were you in Anne Arundel County? Do you know where you?
Don't know.
Not sure. Okay.
Stayed at the
Did
courtyard.
you go over the
area.
Annapolis Bridge?
Maybe we went over a bunch of bridges. Yeah.
Did you go out on the water at all? Did you
hell
get on the
song is
Chesapeake?
this?
Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like this is a couple skate
Right.
only. Go counterclockwise and let's you and I hold hands.
This next skate for couples only.
Counterclockwise.
Yeah, it's
Who
very,
knew the power ballots were going to start in the coming up on the 5 o'clock hour?
Right, exactly. So, real quick, last night, Jim Jackson. I mean, when it gets to the point where Jim Jackson's calling out your effort.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. Okay, the best player on the ice was McEwen.
Yeah,
right.
Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, he was outstanding, but they lost Broussard early, and Broussard's been one of their guys, their effort guys, and their guys that's given offense. The other thing that I was reading today before I came on the air with you is about this combination of Yandel and Ballard. These guys are giving up. Yandel and Sealer, that pairing is bad, right? And then
Sealer.
they're -5 or -6 for the season right now. So here's the thing. You can't, even Elaine Vigneault, even AV last night was like, hey, we only played 60 minutes or we only played 30 minutes, right? Last time I checked, the hockey game is 60. So they really did not give a good effort. That's why they're calling up Morgan Frost today. Who knows if he'll be in the lineup tonight. The big thing with Broussard leaving, they lost all their continuity and any of their offense. And that was, to me, if Zach McEwen wasn't on the ice.
Broussard all of a sudden Malkin?
Well, that's the thing is he was kind of like a role player guy, but Broussard's been really good. And that's, I think, what Jim Jackson was calling out last night is have some pride, man. Get out there.
I was watching. It was 1-0, 2 minutes into the game. I flipped over to the Muggsy Bogues documentary.
Okay.
And then when I flipped back, it was 4-0.
Yeah,
at that point, it was 4-0. But it was just target practice on Carter Hart. I said, I feel bad for the poor guy.
Hart had 31 saves. It could have been 8-0 if he didn't play and stand on his head. You know, he wasn't the problem last night. The problem was, even Ivan Provorov, who's usually solid, was a -3
play again tonight,
last
by the way.
night. Huh?
They play again tonight against the second-best team in the league.
Yeah, that's correct. And then if you think it gets easier after that, they play Carolina for their next game. So, they got, out of the fire into the flames, right? It's not going to be easy for them. And the biggest thing is look, the goalie they went against, some people call God. Andre Vasilevsky is that good. There's a reason they won back-to-back cups. That said, you still got to pepper the guy with some shots. You got to forecheck. You got to have some attitude and some offensive attack. And they didn't look good at all last night.
All right, Pete Thompson, happy Thanksgiving, Peter.
To you too, buddy.
He'll be emceeing the 99 Bottles event here in about a half an hour. You do have time to get out here if you did not register. We're up around 80 of the qualifiers, which means if those
spots
people,
are slimming down.
right?
Yeah.
The spots are slimming down. But if those people do not get here, we're going to go to the waiting list, and there's room on that waiting list. Although I think mathematically you're out of space.
Yeah.
Right? She said about 80 people are in and 24 on the waiting list.
Right. You want to be, if there's 80 people in, you want to be somewhere around 10 to 15 on that waiting list to guarantee you're in.
All right, my man Joe Valerio. We're going to talk football, Cup of Joe, with former Kansas City Chief NFLer Joe Valerio coming up next. It's 99 Bottles Vagabond Kitchen Tap House in Egg Harbor Township. All right, 5 o'clock, 97.3 ESPN, getting ready for the drive home. The final Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Tomorrow, happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. If you are on your way to Vagabond, you got about a half an hour left to sign in. We're up over 80 people who have already signed in right now. So that means we have about 15, 16 spots left for qualifiers. We do have a waiting list of people that is up over 25 now. So a lot of people on the waiting list already. But you can come on down and see us. We've got a ton of prizes we're giving away, including tickets to the Eagles-Washington football game, Sixers tickets, Flyers ticket, concert tickets, and so much more. We got some great sports memorabilia here thanks to our friends at the Fan Zone headquarters, Sun Valley Pools, and they donated a ton of figurines and Eagles gear and all that stuff. And joining us now to talk a little football as we do every Wednesday night right at this time, former NFLer, Penn University grad, and Joe Valerio. He's the host of the Believe in the Chiefs podcast. But we just love just talking football, Joe and I, on Wednesday nights. Happy Thanksgiving, Joe.
Hey, Mike. Happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend. We got the lasagna bacon for tomorrow. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, isn't that all Italians just eat lasagna, right? We don't eat turkey, right?
I know. Tomorrow, my girlfriend and I are going to my cousin's house, and she said, "Is it a traditional turkey dinner or what is it?" And I said, "You know what? I'm walking into. I have no idea, but the back in the day Italian dinners, yes, my family we would do a little bit of that." So
I used to tell my friend. Yeah, I used to tell my friends we stuffed our turkey with lasagna. They'd say, "What?" Yeah, so we stuff it with rigatoni, ziti, whatever. We don't use stuffing.
Well, we're out on location today at a great place called Vagabond here in Egg Harbor Township. It's a packed house in this place. I mean, it is jamming. We're giving away a ton of tickets, and we do a party called 99 Bottles. So we've got 99 bottles lined up here, and every bottle has a pair of tickets attached to it. And the 99 qualifiers, everybody gets one pick. And whatever tickets are on the bottom of that bottle, that's what game or event that they're going to. So we're about to start that here. So we're all listening to you talk a little football, Joe. And, hey, I got to imagine you're an offensive lineman and you watch the Philadelphia Eagles the last couple of weeks, and you're saying, man, I like their game plan.
They are coming together, and they did exactly like we talked about, Mike, the last time we were together. Stick with the run game. Make the other team adjust to your run game. And, look at what they did. I think we talked about this before. I'm a huge time of possession guy, right? 37 minutes the Birds had the ball to the Saints 23. Come on, you're going to win when you hold on to the ball like that, short of throwing picks or fumbling the ball. You have that kind of time of possession, you're winning ball games, and that's what the Eagles need to continue to do. Keep that offense out on the field, let their defense rest so they can make big plays and get after it. I'm telling you, they're putting together a really nice game plan right now, and I like it going into, what is, hey, look, they're all NFL teams, so it's not like there's any cakewalks, but let's be honest, from a record perspective, on paper, they're going into a pretty nice piece of the schedule here that could put them in playoff contention for sure.
That's true, and I want to get to what you said there because now the Eagles are 5-6. Now they've won 2 games in a row. What happens to a team, Joe, when they're in the position from going from to now we expect you to win? Because that's what's happening now. You're on the road, and you're a 3.5-point favorite. So you've turned into the team that 4 wins last year, don't know what to expect. Okay, and now it's time to prove us differently. We're looking at you differently. How does that team get ready for a game when they're now looked at differently?
Yeah, I think, number one, the Giants are going to want to, this is an NFC East game, and they're always battles, right? And, we're heading up the turnpike, and we got some work to do. But there's a big difference, Mike, in a football locker room between confidence and arrogance. And right now, from what I see of this Eagles team and the way they're carrying themselves and the way these players are carrying themselves, they're playing with confidence. They're not arrogant. And I love that. I love it because there's a big difference and a little difference all at the same time. And I think this team is coming into these games prepared with a game plan. And if they stick to it, they know good things are going to happen. That's how you build confidence. Arrogance comes from, just thinking, we throw our helmets out there and we're going to beat the 3-6 Giants because we're playing well. I don't see that with this team. I really don't. They're methodically going about their business, very businesslike. And I love that about this squad right now. They're playing with confidence. They're not arrogant.
All right, so we talk about the run game. It seems to be working. They ran the ball against the number one rush defense in the league. Okay, now teams I'm imagining are going to have to start game planning a little different. So when you watch this team, are they a one-trick pony, or do they have that in them to be able to beat you? You're going to stop our run. We're going to try to run it against us. If we're not having success today, we have something else that we can go to. I don't know that have they proven that they have that other gear, that other thing, that secondary thing they can go to?
Well, I think so. I really do. I think with they're getting Dallas Goedert, right? Thank goodness he come back from that apparent head injury, came back and had a really nice game, averaged 12 yards a catch, five receptions. Really was that extension of the running game, right? I think between Boston Scott and Miles Sanders, I know they weren't used much in the passing game in against the Saints, but guess what? They didn't need to. They were running the ball so effectively that they didn't really need to use them and extend the running game. But they've got it. Devonta Smith is obviously having a magical year for a young player. And I think they do. I think if this team starts to, if they're bringing 7, 8 in the box, and the Giants say, all right, well, we're going to throw all caution to the wind, and we're going to put 8 up in the box. We're going to make you beat us with the passing game. I think Jalen is feeling getting his sea legs under him in the passing game. He's not making mistakes. He's, whenever he has the chance to throw or run or make an option or make an audible at the line, he's making the right call. And I think he's got I'm going to use that word again, confidence to go out and extend the running game with short passes, use his tight end, and use Devonta Smith in that mid-range, 14 to 20-yard passing range. I think it's there. I really do. If they run into a sticky wicket in the run game, I think they've got definitely some options right now. Knock on wood, everybody stays healthy, of course.
Yeah, and it was somebody mentioned to me earlier the week. Are they a team that can run the ball regardless, or how much does Hurts play into the success? Because I look at their offensive line and say they can run on anybody with this offensive line. Jordan Howard probably not going to play, so you're going to have Miles Sanders, Boston Scott. But how much of the success of the run game is predicated on what Hurts is able to do?
Well, let's be honest. And I know that the Eagles don't want to believe it, but he does add a whole nother dimension to what a defensive coordinator's got to look at. Starting they're breaking down the film before the other game is even played. Believe me, these guys are so ahead of their game. But when you get into like Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, right, when they're getting the game plan ready for the players to come in. You can't tell me that there is not a defensive coordinator that has to come up against the Eagles that is not looking at, okay, first, how do we stop Hurts? Then how do we stop Sanders and the rest of the crew, right? Because that's really, that to me, he is the critical piece of that puzzle. Because if he can hurt you with his legs and you don't know whether you want to call it, the RPO, whether it's, he's having the option to pass or run it himself, it just adds that extra dimension when you couple it with the smash mouth attitude of this offensive line right now. I'm watching them come off the ball, and they are, I'm telling you, it all comes down to chemistry. Their hips are together. Their zone blocking is great. They're getting to the next level. They're getting up on linebackers without sacrificing a real nice push at the defensive line front. And that is really what you can say. And yeah, could they run on anybody? If they just went into an old-fashioned pro set and Jalen Hurts was, Dan Marino, a drop-back, straight-back quarterback, could they run the ball? Probably. But listen, let's use Jalen, the weapon that he is, and let's add that extra dimension and make the run game even more effective. And I think that's what the Birds are doing right now.
Okay, I want to kind of I thought the play that set the tone of the game Sunday, Joe, was third down, first series, and they use a corner blitz, something they haven't done really. They haven't showed a lot of blitz all year. And he gets to the quarterback, Maddox does, and how that changed the complexion of the game and how everything felt different after that. More design. I thought John Gannon did a little more designing and showing a little extra on Sunday.
Yeah, he had the luxury of having a really young quarterback in there who's struggling. Let's be honest, right? But you know what? You go with what you got, right? You go with what the game plan calls for, and it called for pressure. I hope they keep it up, because, there's nothing that throws an offense's mojo off than getting after a quarterback and putting pressure on across the board, whether it's messing up the offensive line's protection, who do we block? How does it mess up our blitz pickups from the running back perspective? And I think what I'd like to see is I'd like to see Gannon continue the pressure regardless of who they're playing. I don't care if they end up playing, the Buccaneers tomorrow, with Tom Brady, or they're playing the 49ers of Joe Montana era who could handle the blitz. Keep blitzing, keep pressuring. I'm telling you, it's going to keep working for this defense.
Well, and then you wonder for someone like you, okay, you're an offensive lineman. The Giants' offensive line, not very good. Now, what are they kind of thinking about this week is, man, now they're starting to blitz a little bit. We've already got problems blocking up front, Right.
They're going to have to make some, their center's going to have to make some big decisions, along with the quarterback too, of course. But, the center is really the quarterback of the offensive line when it comes to declaring who's the blitzing linebacker that the offensive line is going to pick up. It's a lot of pressure to put on a beat up offensive line that has a lot of holes in it right now. And I think what the Giants are going to be looking at is, how are we going to keep, a back in? How are we going to keep our tight end in? And then all of a sudden, the offensive coordinator's game plan goes to heck in a handbasket, right? Because now they don't know what to do, right? They don't know who are we going to send the extra lineman to in protection? Okay, right. If you line up a linebacker over the right guard and the center calls the protection to the right side, okay, well, let's bring somebody off the left and make a back block them, right? So, it's definitely not what when an offensive line is banged up, it does give an offensive coordinator fits, because it really it takes your playbook from having 50 types of passes into it down to 20 passes, because you lose a whole dimension with having to keep a tight end in or a back end to cover the blitz. Or to depend on your quarterback to be able to pick it up himself, which, with the speed of these corners and linebackers these days, quarterbacks are having a hard time, adjusting to the blitz. Like we saw Dak Prescott in the Cowboys game. If you watch the Chiefs game, my God, he didn't know what to do. He was a mess. And he's one of the best.
Yeah, and here's my question for you. Joe Valerio played in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was an offensive lineman for Joe Montana during those times. So a little something about a guy behind you blocking. I'm sure if you're not blocking, Joe Montana had something to tell you, right? If you're the guy who gives up the block, and you wonder right now, my question goes to the offensive line is struggling, okay? The Eagles' defensive coordinator, John Gannon, doesn't like to blitz. Is he more apt to not blitz because he says we can beat those guys up front with just 4 guys? Because the quarterback's not digging into those guys. There's you know what I'm saying? So is he saying, I don't think we need to blitz because we can beat this dilapidated bunch?
No, see, Gunther Cunningham was the defensive coordinator for most of the time when I was in Kansas City, and he took the exact opposite tact. He was like a shark.
Stick up front, go after him.
He was like a great white shark, man. When there was blood in the water, he was getting after it, and he did not let up. He was relentless. He would send pressure, knowing that the more pressure you put on that team, they're going to crumble. They're going to make mistakes. You see more interceptions, you see more sacks, and you see more fumbled quarterback where they'll knock the ball out of the quarterback's hand when you're just getting after it when the line is beat up. So I hope, if I'm an offensive lineman, I'm praying that Coach Gannon doesn't blitz. Because if I'm Coach Gannon, look, I don't get paid to be defensive coordinator of the Eagles, but if I'm him, I'm doubling down, and I hope he doubles down. I really do, because it's going to send a message to the rest of the NFC East.
Right. I like that breakdown there to kind of say, look, they're struggling up front, and make them think even more. Make them think even more. John Gannon, we talked about it, 80% completion. They were giving up a ton. Is this, I don't want to say the change, but is it just because, hey, Teddy Bridgewater's not Tom Brady? Simeon is not Tom Brady. Is it just because the caliber of quarterback has dropped, or is it really that he has done a better job disguising, designing, play calling on defense?
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him the credit, Mike. I think he has, watching the intricacies of their game plan now and the way they're masking coverage, the way they're holding on to the blitz package and using it at just the right time. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it is true learning from their past, learning from their mistakes, learning from their successes. And I think this defense is really developing. And I think what Coach Gannon is doing is he's now fitting the Eagles' defensive players into the game plan as opposed to vice versa. I've seen it too many times when defensive coordinators would try to jam a square peg into a round hole, and they try to just take, oh, well, this is my game plan, guys, so you better, this is what you're going to do. And they just, whether the talent's there or not, they want to run the same game plan because that's my game plan. That's what I was built. I built my defensive coordinatorship on my game plan. And what I see him doing right now is he's saying, nope. I'm going to take the talent and I'm going to mold my game plan to the talent. And I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest difference I see from this last 3 or 4 games of this Eagles defense than we saw at the beginning. He is taking the talent and molding it to the game plan, not vice versa, which can be disastrous.
Now, Joe, do you have a good Joe Montana chewing you out story for getting sacked?
No, I got to be honest, Mike. I know everybody looks for it. He was literally the greatest leader we ever had. He was the guy. It was always his fault. I mean, that guy was – I would eat glass for that guy because he stuck up for you, and he never pointed a finger. If a guy dropped the ball, 4th and 1 in the end zone, and they dropped the touchdown pass, he'd slap him on the butt and say, hey, we'll catch the next one. I should have thrown that a little better. I'm telling you, he was fantastic when it came to that. But my favorite Joe Montana story as it relates to it is we were at training camp in 1993 when Joe Montana showed up. And we used to go to River Falls, Wisconsin, and we used to get like maybe 200-300 people in the stands for training camp because we were way up in the hinterlands of Wisconsin, right? 7-8 hours away from home. And we used to, when Joe Montana and Marcus Allen got there were 5,000 people packed into this Division III football stadium, right? Alex Gibbs, our offensive line coach, right? He goes, hey, guys, see all these people up in the stands? They ain't here to see you. He goes, your job just got a little more important this year. Okay, now let's go have a good practice. And we were like biting our fingernails like, oh, my God, we got a block for Joe Montana. What the heck? Not that we didn't care about Dave Craig and Steve DeBerg, but, we knew it got important.
Well, yeah, and we know that, I don't know that you've ever had this happen before, but the Giants just fired their offensive coordinator in the middle of the week, and how that kind of, changes game plan, play calling, all that stuff. I mean, you got to imagine, like we've seen this happen before. In fact, with COVID this year, you're seeing situations where guys can't call the game and someone else has to call it in, but you wonder how different the Giants might look. Do you think they're installing new things right now or just going off of what they had with Garrett? This is a weird dynamic.
Yeah, that fast. I gotta be honest, Mike. Having been in the locker room and I've never been through something that dramatic where we lost our offensive coordinator, in the middle of the season. We did. I was a part of several offensive coordinator changes, but always in the off season. So no, they're going to go with what they got. It's going to take a little time for them to develop some new things.
Kitchens is essentially going to be calling someone else's plays.
Pretty much. There's not a whole lot you can do with the complexity of these offenses that they start implementing, in the off season back in January, right? As soon as the season ends and, the Super Bowl's done and they start putting their offensive game plan in, and with the OTAs and all that stuff, it's too hard midweek to shift. So they're going to be, in essence, they're going to be using, Garrett's playbook, which, look, I have a lot of respect for anybody who coaches that long in the NFL, but, he was a Princeton guy. I'm a Penn guy. I wasn't too sad. I wasn't too sad to see that. But I wish him well. And he's had a great run. And who am I to say I'm no NFL head coach or offensive coordinator? But I did feel like all right, well, Princeton guy goes
good,
down.
Joe. That was a good shot right there. I like that. I like that. Joe Valerio's with me here. We're talking football. Speaking of, you talk about the Chiefs. They seem to be getting on the right path. A lot of people described it, and I want to see what you thought, is that the moment almost felt too big for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. They definitely, and it's funny because Mike McCarthy, his history goes back to the Chiefs. He started when I was playing in the 90s. He started as an offensive quality control, which people are like, what the heck is that position? Basically, back then they would cut up film and prepare the scout team cards, and that's how Mike McCarthy started in Kansas City under Paul Hackett as our offense coordinator in 1993. Along with Joe Montana when he came on board. So he's worked with some great quarterbacks. And I think that's a good way to look at it. Maybe it was too big of a stage, but I hope that the Eagles staff, and obviously they're going to, they look at every single game a team plays. It's not like they can pick and choose. I hope they follow a little bit of what the Chiefs defense did against that, because Spagnuolo, Coach Spagnuolo, who we as Eagles fans know for a couple of different ways, right? I hope that they followed suit to what they did, because that game plan looked a lot like what Coach Gannon did against the Saints. It was heavy blitz, which, Spags, he does like his blitz, but he's not a huge blitz guy. He tries to let his front four do their thing. But what he was doing is he was creating a lot of opportunities for his defensive line by bringing some corners, bringing linebacker dogs. I was really excited to see that happen. So I hope that the Eagles staff really pays attention to that game, because the Chiefs pretty much dismantled that offense. Now, the Chiefs offense struggled a little bit. I wouldn't watch their offensive game plan, but I would definitely watch the Chiefs defensive game plan against the Bulls.
Well, I'll tell you, I watched a lot of that game, and the Dallas was down a couple guys too. They had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but I guess you got to feel much better about where the Chiefs defense is, and that's been a big problem for them. And they seemingly are. What's his name? Jones had 4 sacks in the game.
Yeah, he was all over the place. Tip ball. He's batting stuff down. He's tackles for loss. I mean, he had a really good game. And look, I mean, and that should give the Eagles a lot of hope, right? They've got a relatively easy schedule, right? Like I said, nothing's easy in the NFL, but when you look at the win-loss records of the teams they're playing, it's not bad. And then maybe for this Cowboys game, that Chiefs game gives them some hope to say, look, if we put the right defensive game plan in place, we can shut down, Zeke, and we can shut down Dak. And obviously the Cowboys didn't have Amari Cooper, and they didn't have CeeDee Lamb for a lot of the game. So, they were hurting from that perspective. Dak didn't really have a whole lot of targets, but look, that's life in the big leagues. You got to be able to play through the injuries, and you got to be able to do that. So I just hope that the Eagles staff watches that defensive game plan and, maybe takes a few lessons out of it. Maybe take a few nuggets in there that they can put together when they play the Cowboys.
All right, he's Joe Valerio, and he's always kind enough to join us. We just like to talk football. We get lost sometimes, just start going down some great roads here. Great stuff as always. Eagles, Giants this weekend. And, of course, you can hear that game on 97.3 ESPN. Joe, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll do it again next week, man.
Same to you, Mike. Take care, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right, that's Joe Valerio here, and he's brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. All right, 99 bottles. We're going to start the bottles here in just a couple of minutes. Pete Thompson, he's going to be emceeing that portion of the event, so he's going to start calling out the names and doing all the bottles and giving away all the tickets and all that stuff. Now, Elvis here, he brought me, what is this drink? A lemongrass margarita. Oh, boy. All right. Well, we got that here. Somebody brought me this beer. I didn't see that guy. Where'd that guy go that brought me the beer? I'd like to thank him and all the people who have showed up. I mean, the place is jamming right now. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, 99 bottles. And that event is starting in just a couple of minutes. Stick around. 5:30 on Wednesday night. Sports Bash being brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey. EMT Solar and Roofing, Solar Guardian. Start your solar journey today. Learn more. Visit espnsolar.com. Pete Thompson, if you hear him in the background, he is emceeing the 99 Bottles event, which is underway. The first name has just been called, and he is walking up to pick his first bottle. So you probably are hearing Pete behind me in the background, and we appreciate everybody. This place is absolutely jamming right now, absolutely packed. Jeff Kerr's here from CBS Sports. Got a big audience here listening to you, Jeff. They're all listening, bated breath on this Eagles and Giants game this weekend. And, of course, we bring him to the show right now on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I don't know why Jeff can't hear me. Does it have something to do with the PA system being plugged in? All right. So Jeff cannot hear me. He is like head down. Looks like he's taking a nap over there. All right. We'll pull him out of the thing. What did he win? What did he win? What did he win? Oh, okay. I thought he won the Eagles tickets, and that's why everybody was kind of going crazy here. All right, we'll try to bring Jeff in, see if you can contact Jeff and get him involved here. All right, we got him working on that. And he's getting PT is jamming right now, by the way. I want to thank everybody here at Vagabond Kitchen Tap House in in EHT. They also own the one in the Atlantic City, but this is the EHT one. It has been a great host for the show today. Place is huge. Place has been packed all day long. All the listeners have been absolutely fantastic. So I think we got Jeff ready to go, and he hears me. All right, here we go. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Let's do it on a Wednesday now. What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, Mike. Looks like we had a little bit difficult. I'm good.
Yes, we got you now. We're good, and hopefully let's get into a lot of the NFL news here we got going on. One, Giants fired Garrett the other day. How does that affect or change or any thought different on this game because of that?
I thought it was interesting. Nick Sirianni said we got to be prepared for something really different. And Joe Judge said today they plan on doing different things. But can you really do it on 2 days, 5 days, Mike? I mean, can you really think about this happening right now? That's what I'm concerned about. The Giants are pretty much doing this on short rest. It seems like they made Jason Garrett the scapegoat for this football team. And I just don't know how this will work in a short rest.
By the way, I don't have a problem with them making by the way, that guy's got a West Virginia. All right, brother. I don't have a problem with Garrett being the fall guy for anything. I mean, but that being said, I think you're right. It's almost like, hey, we got to do something here. That being said, their offensive line is their biggest issue here. I mean, right? This is a continuous problem for them. Their offensive line is, and that plays right into John Gannon. So my question goes back to John Gannon sent some pressure last week, got a little pressure. But does he say, hey, we can beat you because your offensive line sticks? I don't need to send pressure.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, Mike. I figured this out. As bad as the Eagles' wounds is, as bad as college basketball. We tried to act like on the work. Quentin Thomas was supposed to be one of the best players in that draft. And Tristan Wirfs is it coaching? Is it we're getting the wrong picks? I don't know. And that's what concerns me. I'm watching the Giants on step hard because I watch them. It's not a good football team, and they're poorly coached. Joe Judge coaches with a high school team. It's not working. They're the games. Their offense is very vanilla. Their defense is good, but they can keep a really good offense. They can stop the 1 year. If they can stop the run, how are they going to beat this Eagles?
Right, and you said their defense isn't bad, but how are they, most importantly, against the run? I guess that's the big question. Are the Giants going to be able to come up with a game plan to kind of mess with the Eagles' run game?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they're missing Blake Martinez tremendously. He was not the best. What's the word I'm looking for? Best defender in pass coverage. But tackling-wise, they miss him in there. And they missed Tyler Blackwell from last year. Los Angeles. So that was a big loss for them too. But where Williams isn't having as good years, he had Aniza Rogari. He's having a good year for them as a rookie. Overall, their secondary is more dangerous than anything else in that. But they're not having a good year. I actually think Jalen Hurts can have
Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, and obviously that was a good breakdown because I look at they ran the ball against the Giants, against the Saints, and I got to imagine, hey, I guess the question I have is just, are you convinced now that Nick Sirianni has come to terms with this is who we are, and you got to try to stop us?
Yeah, this is the identity, and I like that about these players. I really do. I like how he basically went it for people in the league and said, look, we're not doing these bubble screens. This isn't working. Best offensive line football. We have a brilliant offensive line that's going to come and football down your throat, and you're going to have to stop us. And teams just aren't doing it. And these young defenses are facing it. They get even easier. Now I want to see them get 150 yards you might see a little bit more balance of an offense over the next couple games, but I still think the premise is going to be the same. We're going to pound the football down your throat.
And hopefully they stick with that and do it. And I guess I'll ask you then, obviously Jordan Howard being out, how that's going to change. In other words, does Sirianni have the confidence to say, Miles Sanders, you're going to have to do extra, or do we see more Boston Scott? Boston Scott's had some good game against the Giants in the past.
Well, yeah, you just brought it up. I think you're going to see a lot of Boston Scott. I think you're going to see a couple. Nick Sirianni said today, we're kind of going to do a running back like today, but whoever's the hot hand, he's going to get the ball. And they all had the hot hand. I think he is going to lean more Miles Sanders. Pay Miles Sanders the running back, but I think you're going to see a little bit more of Boston Scott this week as well. And I mentioned this earlier on 365. I wanted to see them use Boston Scott more in the screen game. I want to see him get that screen game. I feel like Nick Sirianni's that work. And really, Boston Scott and Kenny Gaines, I think the guys that are able to unlock that.
Yeah, one thing is for sure that Nick Sirianni has hopefully has come to terms with who they are, but has to understand he might have to be more than a one-trick pony, and you wonder if they can shift it into another gear and get some other people involved other than Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert in the pass game too. That's going to be something I think is going to be the next evolution of this offense. Can they get more people involved?
Here's the question I got to present. Who's going to be that guy? Greg Ward? J.J. Arcega-Whiteside? It'd be nice to see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside kind of have, I don't want to say a resurgence, but, be a present in this offense. This is supposed to be out of him. I think Jalen Reagor's the lost cause at this point. I thought he would take a step. That's got all the talent in the world. You've got to be a good football player as well, and he just isn't that. So he doesn't have any depth at wide receiver right now. That is the number one thing they got to do. And it's got to be they got to get it.
All right. Let me ask you this. How do you foresee the Eagles, or do you foresee the Eagles playing a game now with the expectations that they have to win this game? Not, you really need to. People are saying, you're better than the Giants. You need to win this type of game now.
That's going to be the challenge. Because obviously, and they were favored last week. The Saints are really good. I was kind of surprised by that. But, yeah, I think the expectation is these next couple of games, look, you're supposed to win these games. You're supposed to probably win 3 of the next 4 games. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen now. They got the COVID on their back. Wonderful last year with the old judge. The Eagles screwed us out of the playoffs, and even though we were 6-10, guys having an emotional day, retiring Michael Strahan's number and doing all that. So you got that factor in there. Also, you kind of want to ruin the Eagles team as well. And here's the thing: I think Eagles fans are going to make a huge difference in this game because they're going to be having, they're Giants. Yeah, they're very upset. They're very upset.
To which Bob Papa told us earlier about the Strahan thing, and he said, the Giants' record when they have honored past Giants has been dreadful. He said, for whatever reason, they did it for Eli this year. It was just a mess. So, and I said to him, I countered with, when I went to the Eagles retired Reggie's number. It was a Monday night. They lost like 45-0 or something like that to the Seahawks. So
yeah, and I think when they retired McNabb's number, it was against Reed when he came back, and I remember they got killed in that game. So yeah, it's very interesting to see how that all works. But overall, Mike, the Eagles are just a better football team than the Giants. I know they can happen on any given week in the NFL, especially this year, but it just seems like the Eagles are like that one team right now. Knock on wood. The games are supposed to win, they do win.
Yeah. Well, so far this year, yeah. I mean, any game that they have basically – well, I mean, quite frankly, I think the interesting part here is obviously they've succeeded against lesser quarterbacks. They have beaten teams that have that are I don't want to say they're supposed to beat, but the Saints are a pretty good team or an average team. The Eagles have elevated from a team that had low expectations to a team that are now in the same middle road as everybody else. But are they ahead of schedule? Is this team way further along than we thought they would be? Like the expectations have changed now in the middle of the year.
I think the scary good thing about this team is this is supposed to be a transition year, and the team in the transition year have an excellent opportunity to go to the playoffs. And if they do, that's scary for not just the East, but for the rest of the league. You would assume this team's going to get better in 2022 and 2023 with all the picks and all this happening. Howie Roseman signing guys that we weren't sure if he was. They seem to have a core now, and that's what I like. They kept Devontae Max. They kept Dallas Goedert. They're keeping.
Well, there was a big Eagles chant behind you right there. By the way. I don't know that you could hear that going through.
I can hear that. Yes.
I'm sitting right in front of it. You should see the scene in front of me, man. It's a little distracting. All right, so let's look at the NFC East real quick because you got Dallas going to play tomorrow. And what did we see from Dallas last week? What are we thinking about them at this stage of the season? Start to reassess teams around Thanksgiving. What's Dallas all of a sudden?
I don't think Dallas is as good as people make them out. I think they're a very good football team. But I said this earlier today. If the Eagles have to face a team in the playoffs and they get stuck with one team, that's the team I want. Because I feel like they can beat themselves. And they do it. For some reason, they want to make that Prescott a thing. Really if you don't know that Prescott's a really good quarterback. And again, their offensive line isn't as good as they advertise. At least in my opinion, when Dallas commits to running the football, they're very dangerous. Because they do have a defense that's getting better every week. But they don't do that. For some reason, they want Dak Prescott to swing the football around. And their offensive line is and I feel like Dallas can beat themselves. Like the game against the Eagles in week 3, I thought that was one of their now we got something down.
Todd has won polos.
All right, let me get your thoughts then on where Washington is. They've won a couple of games in a row here. And, they seemingly have gotten better defensively. I thought they were going to be one of the best defenses in the league at the start of this thing. So, Thanksgiving, where is Washington?
To be determined. I feel like they're on the right track. I feel like Sunday's win. They've had 2 big wins right now against the NFC South team. So I think Washington is going to be a playoff race. And they're an opportunity too because they play Philadelphia twice. They got Dallas again. I think that's going to be a good game. I think Washington is going to come to the realization. We're not going to hurt We're going to pound the football continue, but our offensive line's getting better. And our defense is what it is right now. We're going to have to deal with it. And I think that's what Washington's dealing with. I think the expectation and win the NFC East football. I totally expect this Washington to be.
By the way, Washington Monday night against Seattle. We'll talk about that more. Yes, it is.
Not losing prime. He just doesn't.
Well, we'll talk more about that game on Monday when Jeff's back. I want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, Jeff, and obviously the football tomorrow. Enjoy it all. Eagles on Sunday, and we'll talk to you again on Monday, my friend.
Yeah, hey, Mike, guess what game I got tomorrow?
Where you at?
I got Bears Lions tomorrow.
Oh man,
I get a doozy, man. If Jared Goff doesn't play, I'm gonna laugh. I kind of want chaos here.
yeah. There's a lot of Bears storyline. What that story about they had Nagy coming in for a meeting on Friday, then they canceled the meeting. They told him he's basically going to be fired. I mean, what a disaster that whole situation.
How about at the Bulls game they were chanting "Fire Matt Nagy"? Not even during the Bears game. At the Bulls game they were doing.
At his son's high school football game is below the belt.
Yeah, it's like, come on. Like, I get the guy hasn't been what you expected, but you know what? Blame your franchise. Your franchise has pretty much been a joke. And look, Justin Fields is going to be a good quarterback. Like,
that's below that. All right, Jeff. Good to see you, buddy. I'll talk to you on Monday.
All right. See you Monday, Mike.
All right. That's Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, and he is a fine contributor here on the Sports Batch. All right. We're going to wrap up the show on the other side. I'm going to tell you who you're rooting for this weekend. You want the Eagles in the playoffs? I'll tell you who to root for. Did he just win those? How about you, brother? Good job. It's very nice. Very nice. That's from our friends over at Sun Valley Bulls. He's got the Eagle figurines. Phillies, gritty. All right. Going to wrap up the show. Who to root for? Coming up next. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. By the way, somebody won Eagles-Washington tickets. Those tickets are off the board. We gave away a pair of Flyers tickets just a little while ago. I think somebody won a pair of Sixers tickets, but the bottles are still on the table. We've got a huge crowd on here. Thanks to everybody who came out and saw the show live. We appreciate you. Vagabond Kitchen, Tap House, thanks to everybody here as well. All right, who you rooting for? Let's go real quick. Thursday, you're rooting for Detroit against Chicago for no other reason than you just want Chicago out of it. Not that I think Chicago's really in this thing, but if they win, they'll be 4-7, keeps them alive. You're rooting for Vegas over Dallas. Dallas would be 7-4. You're rooting for Buffalo to beat New Orleans. New Orleans would fall to 5-6. On Sunday, you are rooting for Miami over Carolina. That would make Carolina 5-7. You are rooting for Jacksonville over Atlanta. That would make Atlanta 4-7. You are rooting for Green Bay over the Rams. That would pull the Rams back to 7-4. Minnesota, San Francisco is really a toss-up. It's just which team that you think has a better shot. I mean, if put it this way, San Francisco beat you head-to-head, so you're probably going to want Minnesota to win that game, and you take your chances. So you want Minnesota to beat San Francisco in that game. And then Monday night, you're rooting for Seattle over Washington. That would drop Washington to 4-7. But that's a big game. Minnesota, San Francisco is probably the biggest divider right there, because Minnesota right now is the 6th seed. San Fran is the 8th seed, I think. So you would you're definitely rooting for Minnesota. Well, no, because Minnesota's already in the playoffs. You would like them to drop out. I don't know. You can flip a coin on that. San Francisco has the tiebreaker.
I would say, Mike, I would go with Minnesota because they have the easier strength of schedule down the stretch.
So you're rooting for who?
I'm rooting for the 49ers to beat the Vikings.
Okay.
Because the 49ers have a harder schedule, so you expect them to lose again at some point, but the Vikings have an easier schedule. So if you could bank this loss for them, that helps.
Right. You're running out of games where they are going to actually have a chance to lose, is what you're saying.
Yeah, by the way, the 49ers have to travel 5,000 miles for the rest of the season.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. I mean,
somebody hates them.
Right. Philadelphia doesn't have to travel at all.
Philly has to travel 284 miles.
Crazy. All right, that's our show. Thanks to everybody. By the way, man, it is jamming in this place. It is packed in here. So if you had a little trouble hearing us at the end there, I apologize. But a great show. Thanks to everybody who showed up. Great turnout today. Thanks to Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House and everybody out there. Josh produced today's show. He's got game night coming up next. And then we have the Flyers at 7, the Sixers at 10. So you don't have to change the channel all the way through the night. And then tomorrow we've got a double disco or triple header of NFL football. I will talk to you Monday. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.